The night in Bikini Bottom unfolds slowly, like a sigh under the sea. Outside SpongeBob's pineapple house, the water hums with distant currents, soft and low, the kind of sound that feels endless. A few jellyfish drift lazily through the quiet neighborhood, their bodies glowing with sleepy blues and gentle pinks. They pulse like night lanterns, illuminating bits of coral and tiny sand mounds with every slow beat of their lights. Inside, everything is still. SpongeBob's pineapple walls glisten with faint reflections from the ocean. Outside, small streaks of moonlight twisting in the water, moving like dreams across the floor. His round alarm clock ticks quietly, though the hands barely move. It's that special kind of underwater night, weightless, hushed, infinite. SpongeBob lies under his soft seafoam green blanket. His eyes flutter open and closed, as if unsure whether to stay awake or sink into sleep. His pillow is puffed and slightly tilted, the corners rounded like clouds made of coral fluff. Gary sleeps nearby, tucked into his shell, letting out the smallest bubbles with every gentle snore. SpongeBob turns his head toward the lamp on his nightstand, a small shell-shaped lamp that glows with golden warmth. He smiles faintly. The lamp's light flickers, dancing on the walls like tiny fireflies. The room feels safe, familiar, and cozy, a world wrapped in comfort. He sighs, his breath forming a small bubble that drifts upward. It floats toward the ceiling and disappears into the watery air. He watches it go, eyes tracing its lazy path, and whispers half to himself, "Good night, little bubble." The sound fades almost instantly, absorbed by the thick quiet of the room. The moment feels like the start of something, a silence deep enough to carry dreams. The lamp's glow begins to dim. Its golden hue softens, mixing with the cool blue from the window. The colors blend amber and ocean teal, forming a peaceful twilight tone. The air feels heavy but gentle, filled with slow-moving shimmer like dust that doesn't fall but drifts. Then, just above SpongeBob's face, something moves. At first, it's almost invisible, a faint distortion in the light like ripples in glass. Then a small bubble forms. It's perfectly round, fragile, and bright, shimmering softly with reflections of the lamp and the moonlight outside. It floats downward slightly, then pauses, hovering just above his nose. SpongeBob opens one eye, curious. The bubble's surface flickers with tiny reflections of the room, the bed, the nightstand, the sleepy outline of Gary's shell. He whispers, smiling, "Hey there, little bubble." As he speaks, the bubble vibrates gently, responding as if it can hear. Its colors shift from clear to pale gold, then to a soft lavender glow. Tiny sparkles swirl inside it, like the beginnings of a tiny galaxy. The light reflects on SpongeBob's face, wrapping him in a dreamy hue. The bubble starts to grow, very slowly expanding with a faint hum, almost like a heartbeat. Its surface stretches without breaking, and the reflections inside begin to move like small waves. It's no longer just a bubble, it's becoming a world of its own. SpongeBob blinks in awe. "Wow," he whispers. The light from the bubble fills the room. The lamp fades completely now, as if it knows it's no longer needed. The soft hum of the bubble replaces all other sounds, a melody made of ocean tones and distant echoes. The water around begins to shimmer. Books on the shelf tilt slightly as bubbles rise from their edges. The clock stops ticking. The shell curtains sway even though there's no current. Everything is suspended, peaceful. SpongeBob lifts his hand, moving it slowly through the glowing water. His fingers pass right through the floating light. Tiny bubbles cling to his fingertips like glitter. He giggles quietly. As he does, the large bubble above him expands again, this time reaching the ceiling. Its surface now fills nearly half the room. The reflections twist and spiral, forming patterns like constellations. Inside, faint images begin to appear, waves rolling, stars blinking, shapes of jellyfish and coral shimmering as if inside a dream. SpongeBob stares, his eyes wide but sleepy. The rhythm of the ocean outside seems to match the pulse of the bubble's light. Everything is synchronized, calm, deep, slow. Then something miraculous happens. The bubble's edge brushes against SpongeBob's blanket, and instead of popping, it stretches, wrapping softly around him. The sound it makes is not a burst, but a soft note, like a sigh through glass. The light deepens golds, melting into aquamarine, purples fading into midnight blue. SpongeBob's room now glows as if underwater, once from the ocean outside, and again from the strange glowing world within. He takes one last look at Gary, who's still asleep, bubbles drifting lazily from his shell. SpongeBob smiles softly and whispers, "I guess I'll just see what happens next." His eyelids grow heavier. The edges of the bubble flicker with light ripples that move like gentle waves. And then he floats. Not fully, not as if he's swimming, but as if gravity itself has forgotten him. The blanket stays in place, but his body feels weightless, slowly rising. His bed, his lamp, his books, everything drifts gently away into the shimmering haze. The bubble now fills the entire room. Its edges expand outward until the walls of the pineapple house disappear completely, replaced by a vast, glowing sea of light. SpongeBob is at the center, floating in slow motion, eyes half closed, surrounded by thousands of tiny sparkles that move like stars in slow water. The hum deepens. The sound of bubbles popping softly echoes like distant bells. The dream has begun. The glow around SpongeBob deepens that gentle hum, now stretching into a melody that feels alive, like the sound of ocean tides echoing through a seashell. The air, if you can call it that, moves slow and thick. Time feels loose here, dripping like honey through the folds of water. SpongeBob blinks once, and the ceiling of his bedroom is gone. Above him, there's nothing but open, glowing sea. Vast waves of color drift across the horizon, lavender, turquoise, and soft amber tones blending like liquid dreams. The surface of the giant bubble has become an entire sky. He floats gently like a feather, no need to swim. Tiny bubbles trail from his fingers whenever he moves, sparkling like dust in light. His pajamas ripple softly, almost glowing themselves under the dreamlike radiance. For a moment, he just stares wide-eyed, calm and completely still. His pupils reflect the endless glow. There's no Krusty Krab, no streets of Bikini Bottom, no ticking clock, only this silent, shifting sea of color. He whispers almost to reassure himself. This must be a dream. The sound doesn't travel far. It drifts like smoke and fades into the watery horizon. The hum beneath him answers with a soft pulse, a rhythm that seems to breathe with him. He moves one hand slowly through the water, curious. With every motion, ripples of light expand outward. The patterns twist, turning into waves that dance through the air. It's like painting on water with sound and motion, every flick of his wrist creating new shapes that glow and drift away. He giggles. Wow, it's like jellyfishing without the nets. Then a sudden pulse, not harsh, but deep, like the thump of a faraway drum. The light ripples again, and out of the glowing sea, shapes begin to form. First, a field of bubbles appears beneath him, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, each one reflecting something faint inside. He leans closer to one. It floats up near his face, and he gasps softly. Inside the bubble, there's movement, tiny versions of jellyfish fields, captured like memories. He sees himself and Patrick running across the grass, their nets in hand, laughter frozen inside that small glass world. The colors are faded like an old film reel. He can almost hear their giggles echoing faintly inside the bubble. The sound doesn't come from outside, it's within it, small and echoing, like the past caught in a seashell. Another bubble floats by, larger, glowing with pinkish light. Inside it, SpongeBob sees something different. His pineapple home, but it's from years ago. Everything is spotless, bright, and new. Gary, as a baby snail, wriggles across the floor, leaving tiny, shiny trails behind him. SpongeBob laughs softly, the corners of his mouth trembling with warmth. Gary, when you were just a little shell. The bubble drifts upward and SpongeBob reaches out to touch it, but it pops silently, dissolving into glitter that rains down over him. The sparkle lands on his hands and face, glowing for a moment, before sinking into the water like fading stars. One by one, more bubbles begin to form, each holding small scenes from his life. He sees the Krusty Krab, golden under sunlight, Mr. Krabs counting money, humming to himself, Squidward at the register, sighing dramatically. There's laughter and sizzling the smell of Krabby Patties filling the dream air, but even that fades, melting into soft mist as the bubbles drift past. A smaller one floats near his shoulder. Inside it, SpongeBob sees himself blowing bubbles with Patrick under a pink sunset. The bubble shines brighter than the rest. He leans closer again. Patrick's voice echoes faintly. Best day ever. SpongeBob's eyes soften. Yeah, it really was. The dream feels alive, like the memories themselves are breathing around him. The bubble field stretches endlessly now, a glowing sea of floating moments, his life refracted in every direction. He twirls slowly in place, watching them all drift, some big, some small, some fading as soon as they appear. Each one hums faintly, a different tone, a different note, and together they create a quiet symphony. The entire scene feels like music made of memory. The colors shift again. The golden hue deepens into cobalt and indigo. The water feels cooler now, heavier. The light ripples above him, forming shapes, almost like clouds, but made of reflections. He can see faint outlines moving within them, his friends, the jellyfish, even glimpses of the Krusty Krab glowing like a lantern in the fog. The hum below deepens again, changing tone. SpongeBob looks down. Beneath him, a single, enormous bubble begins to rise larger than any other. Its edges glow white-blue, so bright it looks like the moon rising underwater. He gasps softly as it ascends toward him, moving with impossible grace. The water bends around it, pulling soft streams of light in its wake. When it reaches him, it stops hovering just below. Its surface shimmers like glass in sunlight. Inside, there's movement. He peers closer, and the reflection sharpens. It's him sitting in his room, asleep just as he was before. The lamp glowing faintly, Gary snoring quietly beside the bed. He blinks, stunned. That's me. The image ripples, distorts, then fades, replaced by a swirl of light. The surface of the bubble pulses once, twice, then gently touches his hand. A spark of light passes between them. SpongeBob's body glows for a moment, like the ocean has lit him from within. His eyes flutter closed. He doesn't feel scared, only calm, wrapped in warmth. His whole body feels like it's dissolving into the glow. The big bubble begins to spin slowly, its surface forming faint spirals. Within the swirls, SpongeBob sees small glimpses again, but this time they're not memories, they're dreams. He sees himself dancing with jellyfish under a glowing moon made of bubbles. He sees coral trees with glass leaves swaying in a rhythm he can almost hear. He sees himself floating beside Patrick across an endless sea of light, laughing without sound. Each image flows into the next, seamless and soft, like watercolor dissolving in water. He whispers, his voice sleepy, "I think this is where dreams live." And the bubble responds with a soft shimmer, as though it understands. The edges of the dream world begin to breathe, expanding and contracting, slow and rhythmic. SpongeBob's body follows the rhythm naturally, his chest rising and falling in sync. The feeling is like floating on a heartbeat. Then from far away, a faint echo like a lullaby carried on a current. He listens. The melody is gentle, circular, the kind that feels familiar but impossible to place. It could be the hum of jellyfish or the tune of bubbles popping in perfect rhythm, or maybe something deeper, the ocean itself singing. He smiles, his eyes growing heavier again. The light grows softer, turning the glowing world into mist. The bubbles around him rise slowly, one by one, disappearing into the shimmering surface above. The last few that remain drift close to him like companions before fading too. The final one hovers near his hand, tiny, glowing faintly. Inside it, SpongeBob sees himself and Patrick sitting beside a campfire made of glowing coral, laughing as the stars above flicker gently. He watches until it fades, leaving only the soft hum of light. The world is now completely still again. No more movement, no more sound. Just SpongeBob, floating in slow golden blue water halfway between the real and the dream. And then the surface above him opens, revealing a faint passage of light spiraling upward. It looks like the tunnel between two oceans. SpongeBob breathes out, the air forming another tiny bubble that drifts toward the spiral. "Okay," he whispers. "Let's see where this one goes." He tilts his body upward and lets himself drift slowly, calmly toward the glowing spiral above. The light grows brighter, wrapping him in layers of silver and turquoise. He rises higher and higher as the first bubble dissolves behind him, and the next part of his dream begins. The spiral of light pulls SpongeBob upward in slow motion, like a current lifting him through clouds of liquid starlight. Every turn of the spiral glows with hundreds of tiny bubbles, each one carrying soft reflections of moments he doesn't quite remember. The deeper he goes, the more the world around him bends. Time stretches, colors melt. It's not water anymore, not air either. It's something softer, something that feels like being inside a thought. He reaches out as he drifts, touching a bubble that glides past his hand. Inside, a small flicker, the Krusty Krab sign glowing under a bright, sunlit sea. He can almost hear the sizzle of patties, the echo of customers laughing, but the sound fades before it reaches him. The memory doesn't belong to this place anymore. It's only a ghost. The spiral begins to widen, its light fading into an open ocean of color. SpongeBob slows down, floating in the center of the new world. All around him space, endless and still, but not empty. Clusters of giant bubbles float in every direction, some the size of houses, others as big as islands. Each one holds entire worlds inside, glowing, turning slowly, shimmering like miniature planets. SpongeBob's mouth drops open in awe. "It's a whole universe of bubbles." He twirls once in wonder, his body glowing faintly from the light of the worlds around him. The sound here is a faint vibration like an infinite heartbeat, slow and deep. He glides closer to one of the largest bubbles nearby. Its surface ripples gently as he approaches, reflecting his yellow shape into dozens of soft duplicates. He presses a hand against it. The surface feels warm, humming, faintly alive. Inside the bubble, a familiar scene flickers to life. Jellyfish fields, but not the real one. This version floats in slow motion. Every jellyfish moves like drifting lanterns, glowing in deep blues and pinks. The grass sways, though there's no wind. The sunlight above is soft and golden, painting the entire field in dreamy haze. SpongeBob stares, his eyes wide. Whoa, this is beautiful. He sees himself and Patrick running across the field inside the bubble, nets in hand, but their laughter is slowed down, almost musical, echoing through the water like whale song. He watches, smiling gently. He tries to step inside. The bubble's surface wavers then, without resistance, lets him through. Instantly, the world shifts again. He's now standing in the glowing version of Jellyfish Field's light swirling in the sky like oil paint. The grass glimmers beneath his feet. Even the air feels alive, breathing slowly. SpongeBob looks around, spinning in slow awe. The jellyfish hover all around him, bigger than normal, softer, transparent like living moonlight. Their tendrils trail sparkling light that fades into bubbles. He raises a hand, and one jellyfish drifts close. Its glow pulses faintly, syncing with his breathing. SpongeBob whispers, "Hi there." The jellyfish pulses again as if answering him. For a long moment, everything feels still. He feels like part of the scene, like he belongs to the dream instead of just visiting it. Then a shift. The light flickers. The jellyfish scatter silently, drifting higher. The golden haze around him ripples as though a soft wave just passed through the entire field. SpongeBob looks up. A large bubble floats above, glowing brighter than the rest. Inside it, faint movement. Curious, he jumps slightly and floats upward to meet it. Inside, he sees another version of himself, this time at work, flipping patties, humming. But there's no sound, only the flickering motion, slowed and graceful like a silent film. The scene looks peaceful, yet distant, like a story he's seen too many times to remember where it began. The reflection of light bends and folds, and suddenly the entire Krusty Krab scene melts into another SpongeBob and Patrick building a sandcastle, their laughter blending with the faint hum of the ocean. Each moment passes in seconds, scenes from years, maybe decades, floating and fading like reflections in passing waves. SpongeBob feels something deep inside, not sadness, not joy, but something between. A quiet, peaceful ache, the kind that comes when you remember something you didn't know you missed. He whispers softly, "All these bubbles, they're memories." The world answers with a faint shimmer, as if the dream itself nods. The light dims slightly, turning from gold to pale blue. The jellyfish fade into mist, leaving SpongeBob floating alone again. Then from the distance, another light, warm and faint, flickers through the fog. SpongeBob turns, his curiosity reignited. He swims toward it, slow and weightless. The glow grows stronger with every movement, pulsing softly. When he gets closer, he sees that it's coming from a cluster of smaller bubbles, all orbiting around one large central one like a tiny solar system. He moves to the center. Inside the large bubble, there's his pineapple house, glowing gently from within. The windows pulse like heartbeats. The shape of his home flickers slightly, changing colors with each breath of light. He smiles faintly. Home. As he gets closer, he notices that each of the smaller bubbles orbiting the big one contains moments from that house, him cooking breakfast. Gary meowing lazily, the two of them watching TV. Some scenes are bright and playful, others are quieter. SpongeBob reading, cleaning, or just sitting by the window. Each small bubble rotates in perfect harmony, like time spinning in circles. SpongeBob reaches toward the central bubble. His hand passes through easily, and he finds himself standing in his dream version of home again, everything glowing, softer than real life. The furniture floats slightly, the walls shimmer like liquid light. The air smells faintly of sea salt and something sweet, maybe the memory of a jellyfish jelly sandwich. He walks through the living room slowly, his reflection stretching and bending across glowing surfaces. Gary's shell is sitting quietly on his little bed, radiating soft lavender light. SpongeBob kneels beside him, smiling. "Hi, buddy," he whispers. "You look so peaceful." The little snail glows once, like he's breathing light instead of air. SpongeBob laughs softly. "Yeah, I think I am too." He stands and turns toward the stairs leading to his room. They curve gently upward, almost endless, fading into mist at the top. The melody from before that soft lullaby made of bubbles begins to play again. But this time, it's clearer. Each note echoes like a memory of laughter. SpongeBob starts climbing. With every step, the world around him becomes brighter, dreamier. The stairs don't feel like they're going anywhere specific. It's more like walking upward through his own thoughts. At the top, a door glows faintly. He reaches for it. When he touches the handle, the door turns into liquid light. Beyond it, another vast ocean of bubbles, stretching farther than sight. But these ones look different. They glow with colors he's never seen, hues that exist only in dreams. A soft voice hums through the light, familiar, distant, like his own mind speaking to itself. "Keep going, SpongeBob. Every bubble is a memory, and every memory leads to the next dream." SpongeBob smiles. His reflection in the door ripples once, and then he steps through. The light expands, endless, soothing, infinite. He drifts again, his body weightless, his heart calm. And above him, the spiral returns, glowing softly, opening like a path through the sea of stars. He begins to rise once more into the next layer of his infinite bubble dream. The spiral of light unfolds endlessly before him, a slow, glowing current that seems to breathe. SpongeBob floats upward, hands outstretched, passing through waves of color that pulse softly like heartbeats. Each bubble he passes reflects a new version of himself, smiling, working, laughing, thinking, resting. All familiar, yet none quite the same. He realizes every version is him, not from different times, but from different feelings. The happy SpongeBob, the tired one, the curious one, the one who dreams. All of them drift together here, suspended like constellations in an ocean made of memory. He slows, looking around. The water glow dims slightly, deepening into a cool sapphire blue. The air feels still, almost sacred. There are no more bubbles in sight, only a faint shimmer far above, and the hum of the ocean echoing below. He whispers into the silence. "Where am I now?" The sound ripples outward, forming a small wave of light that expands around him. The hum beneath the world responds low, ancient, soft. It doesn't speak in words, but SpongeBob understands it anyway. He's reached the heart of his dream, the source of all bubbles. The current gently pulls him forward toward a single, enormous shape glowing faintly in the darkness. It's not a bubble this time, not exactly. It's more like a sphere made of light and motion, pulsing gently, each pulse sending ripples through the ocean, like breathing. He approaches slowly, feeling small but safe. The glow warms him, wrapping around him like a blanket. Tiny bubbles swirl in spirals around the glowing heart, forming patterns that resemble coral, then stars, then nothing at all. He stops just a few feet away, gazing into its surface. Within, he sees faint reflections of everyone he's ever loved. Patrick laughing, Squidward sighing at his clarinet, Sandy working on one of her inventions, Mr. Krabs counting his coins with a grin. Even Plankton flickers by, tiny and determined, plotting something mischievous. The reflections don't feel distant. They feel alive, part of this light. Every friendship, every memory, every small moment has a place here. SpongeBob's eyes soften. It's all, inside the bubbles. The light pulses once, brighter as if agreeing. He drifts closer, placing both hands on the glowing surface. It's warm, alive, and humming faintly like the rhythm of a lullaby he's known all his life but never truly heard until now. When he closes his eyes, he sees everything at once: laughter at the Krusty Krab, nights under jellyfish lights, quiet evenings reading with Gary, moments of sadness that always turned into smiles. They flow together not as memories, but as currents of light weaving through him. He isn't watching his life anymore. He's part of it, breathing with it. The pulse grows slower, deeper. The entire world seems to inhale, then exhale gently. The bubbles surrounding him begin to rise in synchronized rhythm, hundreds, then thousands, each glowing softly like stars ascending. SpongeBob lets go, drifting upward with them. The light below dims, fading into darkness, while the space above brightens into a soft, golden dawn. He's floating through a tunnel of ascending bubbles, each one brushing past him, releasing faint hums like musical notes. Together they form a song, gentle, endless, comforting. The song of the bubbles, the song of his dream. He smiles faintly. I think I get it now. A single bubble floats closer, larger than the rest, glowing softly. Inside it, he sees the image of his own house, quiet and peaceful. Light spilling through the window. The same view he fell asleep to. Oh, he reaches for it, and as his hand touches it, the bubble expands, surrounding him completely. Suddenly, everything is still again. He's standing in his bedroom, the real one, or maybe the dream's reflection of it. The light is faint, golden, warm. Gary sleeps peacefully in the corner, tiny bubbles rising from his shell with every snore. The sound of gentle rain echoes faintly outside, soft, rhythmic, soothing. SpongeBob looks around, smiling. Home again. He walks toward his bed and sits down slowly. The sheets feel real, the scent of sea air familiar. But as he glances toward the window, he sees something strange. The ocean outside isn't dark. Instead, countless bubbles drift upward, glowing like lanterns. Each one rises until it fades into the horizon, where the water meets the stars. He places a hand against the glass. His reflection wavers, replaced by that same glowing spiral from before, distant, fading slowly. He whispers softly, almost to himself, maybe dreams don't end. Maybe they just float. The reflection ripples once, like it's smiling back. He lies down, pulling the blanket over himself. The glow from outside paints shifting patterns on his walls, slow, gentle, like breathing light. He watches as one final bubble drifts past his window. Inside it, a faint image of him and Patrick sitting by a campfire under the sea, roasting sea marshmallows, laughing softly. He chuckles. Good night, buddy. The bubble drifts upward, vanishing into the stars. His eyelids grow heavy again. The sound of the rain mixes with the faint hum of the ocean beyond. Every sound becomes softer, slower until it's just the rhythm of his heartbeat and the deep, calm breath of the sea. He dreams again, not of adventure, not of work, but of stillness. In this space between waking and sleeping, the bubbles keep rising. Each one carries a spark of his laughter, a memory, a wish. And as they rise higher and higher, they merge into the glowing ocean sky, infinite, peaceful, alive. The camera slowly pulls away from his window. Outside, the sea is glowing, faintly filled with drifting bubbles that stretch to the horizon. Each one shines like a tiny moon, spinning slowly in the deep blue. The view keeps zooming out past SpongeBob's house, past jellyfish fields, past the faint shapes of Bikini Bottom sleeping beneath the waves. At the farthest distance, all the glowing bubbles form a vast spiral, turning slowly in the dark like a galaxy made entirely of light and memory. At its center, a single golden glow, small but eternal. The first bubble, the one that started it all. The spiral keeps turning, endlessly gentle, endlessly calm. And from the distance, a faint echo. SpongeBob's laughter, quiet, slow, drifting through eternity. The dream fades into silence. Only bubbles remain. As SpongeBob drifts quietly, suspended in an endless sea of shimmering light. The bubbles around him glow softly, drifting upward and outward into infinity. Some are as small as seashells, others large enough to hold whole worlds within them. He turns slowly in the water, his reflection caught in hundreds of tiny spheres, a kaleidoscope of golden light, yellow skin, and soft blue shadows. Everything feels both strange and familiar, like remembering something from a long time ago and realizing you're still inside it. The ocean here is not quite water. It moves slower, smoother, like liquid glass. Every motion leaves behind faint trails of light that fade away like whispers. Each bubble hums faintly as it passes, a note in an invisible song that fills the entire dream space. Together, they form a harmony that feels ancient and gentle. SpongeBob reaches out his hand. A small bubble floats toward him, quivering lightly, pulsing with faint blue light. He hesitates, then lets his fingertip touch it. The bubble ripples. Inside, an image appears, bright and colorful. He sees himself and Patrick years ago running through the jellyfish fields with nets in hand. They laugh, stumble, tumble down a hill of coral flowers and land in a heap. The bubble glows warmer, the sound of laughter echoing faintly inside it. SpongeBob's eyes soften. "Oh, that day," he whispers. He watches the scene unfold like a miniature movie, each motion slowed, each sound distant and muffled, as if playing underwater. The memory is both real and dreamlike, tangible and untouchable. He presses his palm gently against the bubble, wanting to step inside, but the surface flexes and ripples like a heartbeat. The image inside begins to shift. Now it shows Squidward sitting under a tall coral arch, clarinet in hand. The moonlight above ripples through the waves, painting silver lines across his face. The music that leaves the instrument is slow and lonely, but also beautiful. SpongeBob listens quietly. The sound blends with the hum of the bubbles, creating a perfect stillness. He smiles faintly. "You always said we were too loud, but that's one of the prettiest songs I've ever heard." The bubble drifts away, spinning lazily, fading back into the glowing mist. Dozens more bubbles float by, each showing something different, the Krusty Krab glowing with warm light during a busy lunch hour, Sandy working on her inventions, goggles fogged with steam, Mr. Krabs dancing joyfully over a shiny coin he just polished. Every bubble moves at its own rhythm, pulsing like a heartbeat, glowing softly with pastel hues, pinks, blues, lavenders, gold, slowly breathing in and out. The light in this dream sea never stays the same. It shifts, swirls, drifts, like tides made of color. The water itself hums faintly in rhythm with SpongeBob's heartbeat. He floats through it without effort, carried by invisible currents that feel alive. He begins to notice something. Each bubble hums at a slightly different tone. Together they form a melody, quiet, fragile, like an orchestra playing through the ocean. When he listens closely, he realizes it's not random. The melody sounds like his laughter. Every bubble that contains a happy moment emits a bright, clear tone. The ones with softer, quieter scenes hum lower, gentler notes. Together they make the music of his own memories. He drifts through them like a conductor lost in his own symphony. The currents swirl softly, lifting him higher. He spins slowly, watching bubbles pass around him like glowing planets. Each bubble has its own motion, orbiting unseen centers, memories spinning in delicate balance. He sees one bubble larger than the rest, pulsing softly with golden light. Curious, he floats closer. Inside, he sees himself sitting on the front step of his pineapple house, holding a Krabby Patty in one hand and looking at the sunset through the water. He's not smiling, not sad, just quiet. The sky in the bubble glows pink and violet. He remembers that moment perfectly. The day had ended, the restaurant was closed, and everything felt still. It wasn't about happiness or sadness. It was about peace. He reaches toward it, whispering, "That was the night I realized. Even quiet can feel full." The bubble vibrates softly, then releases a faint ring, a tone so gentle it feels like a sigh. SpongeBob closes his eyes, letting it pass through him. For a moment he feels weightless, almost transparent, as though he's become part of the bubble light itself. When he opens his eyes, more bubbles have gathered around, hundreds of them now. They surround him in a spiral formation, rising slowly, creating a tunnel of soft light. He looks around in awe. The colors blend, blue fading into rose, rose into gold, gold into clear. The entire dream moves like a living thing. He floats upward, brushing past more bubbles, each one flickering with moments. In one, he sees Patrick building a sandcastle that accidentally collapses on him. In another, Sandy teaching him karate. He moves too fast and ends up tying his own limbs in a knot. He laughs softly, his voice echoing through the dream space. The sound ripples, and nearby bubbles shimmer in response, as though they're laughing with him. The current carries him gently higher. As he rises, the bubbles begin to change, no longer showing clear scenes, but instead abstract swirls of light and emotion. Some glow like sunlight on waves, others flicker like candlelight. He realizes these are not memories, they're feelings. Moments too small to remember clearly, but too warm to forget. The feeling of waking up early and smelling breakfast. The feeling of finishing a long day and hearing the ocean hum outside. The comfort of knowing that even when he's alone, Bikini Bottom still breathes around him. He floats through those feelings, eyes half closed. It's like drifting through a sea made of heartbeats and laughter. The sound around him grows softer, distant echoing harp notes, gentle reverb, shimmering like sunlight on the surface of water. The deeper he drifts, the slower the bubbles move, as if time itself has fallen asleep. Everything breathes. Everything glows. SpongeBob exhales slowly, whispering into the silence. It's like, "I'm inside everything I've ever loved." His words fade into the current, and the dream continues to expand. The surface of the great bubble ripples outward, silent and smooth, as SpongeBob's fingertips sink gently into it. It doesn't burst. Instead, light flows through him like warm water. His vision fades to gold. His body becomes light, and suddenly, he's inside. There's no boundary now, no horizon. Everything glows softly, as if he's floating in the middle of a living sunrise. The air, if it can be called air, is filled with faint laughter, echoes of old days, gentle hums that vibrate like memories turned into sound. Then slowly shapes begin to form. He sees the outline of his pineapple home, the familiar doorway shimmering with bubbles. The kitchen appears, glowing faintly blue. A jellyfish drifts by the window like a curious spirit. But it's not quite real. Everything looks like a watercolor painting come to life, edges flowing and blending, colors breathing. He steps forward and hears the faint creak of the floor beneath him. The sound makes him laugh softly. "Even in dreams," he whispers, "my house squeaks." As he walks through, he notices tiny bubbles forming on each object. The sofa, the snail shell, the lamp. Each bubble bursts gently, releasing a memory like a spark of light. One pops open and reveals the sound of Patrick's laughter echoing through the living room. Another bursts and shows SpongeBob and Gary watching a rainstorm together. Another glows and plays a moment of Squidward knocking on the door to borrow sugar. Grumpy, but still there. Each burst is fleeting, but it leaves a shimmer of light behind, as if the house itself remembers every moment of his life. He turns and sees his bed, soft, inviting, the same blanket folded neatly at the corner. But above it, floating slowly, is another bubble, larger than the rest, glowing faint lavender. SpongeBob reaches up and gently taps it. Inside, he sees himself lying on that very bed, reading a book, smiling, the candle flickering nearby. Then the vision shifts. The book fades, and now he's younger, just waking up on his first day at the Krusty Krab, excited and nervous. The bubble shows not just one memory, but all the versions of that same moment. Him resting, dreaming, waking, living. Every time he's felt peace in this bed, all happening together. The light inside the bubble flickers in rhythm with his heartbeat. He sits down, watching the colors shift around him. "So this is what dreams remember," he whispers. From outside, faint voices begin to echo. Patrick's cheerful shout, Sandy's laughter, Squidward's clarinet notes drifting through the water. But they don't sound distant. They sound near, as though the dream has folded all of time into one soft instant. SpongeBob floats upward again, following a trail of light that seems to lead him through his own memories. He passes through the ceiling, though it's no longer solid, and enters a vast open space. The entire town of Bikini Bottom glows below him, now floating inside the same golden bubble. Every street, every coral, every grain of sand sparkles faintly, each carrying a heartbeat of its own. It's not night or day. It's between. The light feels alive, breathing in slow pulses that match the rhythm of the sea. Bubbles rise from every direction, joining him. Some drift past, showing small moments. Mr. Krabs counting coins with pride, Sandy adjusting her air helmet, Plankton grinning mischievously before another plan. Others glow brighter, containing fragments of laughter, music, and sunlight. SpongeBob reaches out and touches one that passes near his chest. It opens like a flower. Inside, he sees himself and Patrick blowing bubbles at sunset, the colors of the sky reflected in their watery spheres. He can feel the warmth of that moment, the breeze, the sound of jellyfish buzzing lazily nearby. It's as if the dream is not replaying his memories, it's letting him relive them. A soft current carries him upward. He doesn't swim. The dream lifts him. His arms float at his sides, his face calm, eyes wide with quiet wonder. All around the bubbles begin to sing again. Each one emits a tone, soft, shimmering, harmonic. Together they form a melody that drifts through the water, slow and endless. He listens closely and realizes it's the sound of moments ending. Every pop, every tone, every ripple is something that once was and now isn't, still echoing through the sea of time. But it doesn't make him sad. It makes him grateful. Nothing really disappears, he whispers. It just floats somewhere else. He turns his gaze upward. Above him, the bubbles grow larger and brighter, forming constellations of light. They swirl slowly, taking shape, like a spiral galaxy made of dreams. He realizes he's inside a memory so large it doesn't belong to him alone. It's the memory of everything, of the ocean itself. The currents glow faintly gold, and within them he sees shadows, ancient fish, coral forests, moonlight bending through the waves. Every creature that's ever lived in Bikini Bottom, every story, every laugh, it's all here. A collective dream held together by the bubbles. He floats higher, weightless now. His reflection appears and disappears on the surface of passing bubbles, sometimes smiling, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes glowing faintly like a star. He whispers softly, "If this is all a dream, then maybe the ocean dreams of us too." The words spread through the water, and the bubbles pulse in response. Each one glows brighter for a moment, as if agreeing. He looks down once more at Bikini Bottom, the pineapple house glowing faintly, the crusty crab sign flickering, Patrick's rock softly lit. Then, as if on cue, a faint shimmer passes over everything. The town blurs. The colors begin to merge, and slowly it dissolves back into glowing mist. The dream is changing again. SpongeBob feels a gentle tug from above, like a current calling him toward the surface of something greater. He takes one last look below at the fading lights of his memories. "I'll come back," he says, voice quiet but certain. Dreams don't end. They just wait. He turns upward and drifts toward the brightest light, the top of the great bubble, where everything glows white and gold. The melody follows him, soft and infinite. As he ascends, the bubbles below begin to rise with him, thousands at once, like stars ascending into the sky. Their light wraps around him in flowing ribbons, and he feels an overwhelming warmth. The great bubble begins to shimmer, its edges fading. For a moment, SpongeBob sees all of Bikini Bottom again. Smiling faces, laughter, music, sunlight on waves, everything he's ever loved, spinning together inside the glow. Then, with a sound like the softest pop in the world, the bubble opens. And SpongeBob passes through, weightless and glowing, into the next dream. The pop of the great bubble was not an ending, it was a breath. The sound rippled outward like a single note struck on a harp, soft enough to be felt rather than heard. SpongeBob floated weightlessly through the golden mist that followed. The light folded around him like a blanket, and the last of the bubbles rose past his face, each carrying a flicker of something he loved. One held Gary's sleepy eyes, another held Patrick waving, another the gentle sway of jellyfish fields. He smiled, eyes half closed. So many bubbles, and every one a story. Then the mist began to clear. Before him stretched an enormous sea of air, a sky beneath the sea. It shimmered with colors too soft to name. Pale violets melting into silver blues, warm yellows fading into pearl white. Thousands of bubbles floated here, larger than ever, drifting in slow motion like moons. Some pulsed gently. Others carried entire landscapes inside them, rolling dunes of sand, forests of coral, even glimpses of SpongeBob's childhood neighborhood, half-remembered and dream-bright. He gasped softly. This must be where dreams live when we're not using them. He reached toward one bubble, enormous and translucent. Inside, he saw the Krusty Krab, perfectly still, chairs gently swaying, as though in invisible currents. The neon sign flickered once, twice, then steadied the same hum that always played when he was about to start work. He pressed his palm to the surface and whispered, "Good morning, old friend." The bubble glowed in reply, then drifted away, carrying the sound of a faint grill sizzle the comfort of everyday life. A soft current caught him, spinning him slowly. He looked down and saw reflections of himself in hundreds of tiny bubbles. Each version smiled differently, one mid-laugh, one serious, one dreamy. It was as though the sea was showing him every feeling he'd ever had, gently reminding him that each emotion, too, was a memory worth keeping. A warmth filled his chest. From somewhere above, a beam of moonlight cut through the haze, scattering into ribbons that danced across the bubbles. The light made them hum a low, resonant tone, peaceful and endless. The bubbles began to orbit him like stars around a planet. Their trails left glowing arcs in the water, slow spirals of light that wrapped him in a soft cocoon. SpongeBob stretched out his arms and let himself spin. For a moment, he felt like he was part of the melody, not listening to it, but being it. He remembered Mr. Krabs telling him once that bubbles were fragile. "They pop quick, boy," he'd said. "That's what makes them special." Now inside this dream, SpongeBob understood. Fragility wasn't sadness. It was beauty that couldn't be owned, only experienced. He floated upward again, guided by invisible hands of current and memory. The air shimmered brighter with each breath. The bubbles around him began to align, slowly connecting to one another. They fused without bursting, merging their lights into larger, softer spheres until the whole sky became one vast sheet of luminescent water. He found himself standing, though there was no ground, at the edge of something infinite. The merged bubbles formed what looked like a horizon made of memory itself, waves of color, rippling and breathing. He could see everything at once, the laughter, the work, the adventures, the quiet nights, all of it blending into a single, tranquil rhythm. A thought came to him gently. Every bubble I ever made is still somewhere drifting. Well, he closed his eyes, imagining the sound of the ocean above, the faint tapping of rain he sometimes heard before sleep. The melody of the bubbles blended with that rhythm until it became one heartbeat, the pulse of Bikini Bottom, of the sea, of everything alive. Suddenly a single bubble rose before him, larger than the rest, glowing soft blue. Inside he saw his friends sleeping peacefully. Patrick snoring under his rock, Squidward curled under a blanket, Sandy's tree dome glowing faintly, Gary tucked inside his shell. The sight made him smile wider than any dream could. Everyone's resting, even the ocean. He placed both hands on the bubble. It felt warm, alive. A single word escaped his lips, carried on a whisper that echoed through the dream. "Thank you." The bubble pulsed, brighter and brighter until it filled the whole space with light. For a moment, SpongeBob could see everything at once, not through eyes, but through feeling. The laughter of friends, the sound of bubbles rising, the comfort of his tiny pineapple home. All of it merged into one sensation, nice. Then slowly the light began to dim. The bubbles sank back into the dark, the melody fading to a faint hum. The warmth lingered on his face like morning sunlight before waking. As the world around him softened to mist, he whispered, "Good night, memories. Keep floating." A final bubble drifted past him, tiny and glowing gold. Inside, he saw himself asleep, smiling faintly, dreaming of bubbles. He reached out gently and tapped it once. It popped without a sound, leaving behind a shimmer that wrapped around his hand like light. The shimmer spread, tracing lines up his arm, around his body, until he glowed softly, becoming part of the dream. Then the current shifted. A low, deep vibration rose from below, like the slow exhale of the ocean itself. The dream began to descend, carrying him downward. Through the fading colors, through the last glimmers of his memories, until the world settled once again into darkness. But it wasn't an empty darkness. It was full of softness, warmth, and the memory of everything beautiful that had passed. He exhaled once, eyes closed, floating deeper. The last sound he heard was the quiet hum of bubbles rising far above, like lullabies that never end. And with that, SpongeBob disappeared into sleep's deepest tide, where dreams don't end, they drift. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that hums with quiet life. SpongeBob drifts slowly, eyes half open, through a space that feels both sky and sea. The dream has deepened. The colors around him have softened from pastel to pearl, pale lavender melting into opal white, faint pinks dissolving into a luminous silver-blue haze. He's no longer surrounded by scattered bubbles. Now he floats in them, a sea made entirely of bubbles, stretching endlessly in every direction. Each wave is formed not by water, but by clusters of translucent orbs that swell and dip like liquid glass. When one wave rises, it carries hundreds of smaller bubbles within, each pulsing faintly with soft light. When it falls, it shatters into ripples of silver mist before reforming again, as if the dream itself is breathing. SpongeBob turns slowly in the water, looking all around. Whoa. His voice is gentle, almost reverent. The sound echoes faintly, bouncing across the surface of nearby bubbles like ripples in a pond. He reaches out to touch one of the larger orbs drifting beside him. It bends slightly beneath his hand, shimmering like liquid moonlight, then releases a deep, resonant tone like a crystal bell played under the ocean. The tone expands outward. Every bubble nearby vibrates in sympathy, and soon the whole sea begins to hum in harmony, a low, celestial chorus of sound. SpongeBob giggles softly, amazed. Wow, it's like they're singing. He floats upward, letting the music carry him higher. The bubbles below shift with his movement, forming new currents that swirl and twist like rivers of glass. Through them, flashes of color appear, tiny fish made of light darting between the bubbles, their fins leaving glowing trails behind. They're not like any sea creatures he's seen before. Their bodies are transparent, filled with drifting sparkles that resemble stardust. Each time they swim through a bubble, they leave a faint golden glow on its surface, like writing invisible stories across the sea. SpongeBob laughs quietly, his voice warm and childlike. "Hey there, little buddies." One of the glowing fish swims near his face, circling him curiously before darting upward into the great glowing tide. The movement draws his gaze higher, where he sees an entire current of these light fish weaving through the bubble sea like constellations. They swim in looping patterns, forming shapes that shimmer: a jellyfish, a flower, a heart, a spiral. The sea itself seems to be alive, painting with light in slow motion. For a moment, SpongeBob feels as if he's floating through the night sky, except here. The stars breathe, the air moves, and the world hums softly to its own rhythm. A deep calm fills him. His body feels lighter than air. His thoughts drift like the bubbles round him. He whispers to himself, "This is what peace must sound like." The camera-wide aerial shot pans slowly around him, in a full 360. The horizon curves softly, showing endless layers of glowing waves, stretching out like mirrored galaxies. Each wave carries its own rhythm, its own pulse of light, breathing in, breathing out. As SpongeBob drifts, the sea reacts. Bubbles rise where he moves, almost like they're greeting him. One by one, they form around him in spirals, stacking gently upward until they form a path, a glowing bridge made of round, shimmering spheres. Curious, SpongeBob steps onto it. The surface holds his weight but feels soft, springy, and alive, like walking on air. Each step produces a faint musical note, pure and bright. He looks down. Inside each bubble beneath his feet, he sees reflections, not of the present, but of moments scattered through time. In one, he's standing outside the Krusty Krab on a sunny day, spatula in hand. In another, he's blowing bubbles with Patrick, their laughter echoing endlessly. In yet another, he's helping Squidward clean the grill, both frowning, both secretly smiling. The path glows brighter as he walks. He feels an invisible current of joy and familiarity flowing through him. It's not just his dream anymore. It's everything and everyone he's ever loved, floating together in perfect quiet. Above, schools of glowing fish twist and swirl, casting slow-moving shadows on the bubble tide. Some of the bubbles even carry reflections of the stars' twinkling patterns that seem to dance with the melody of the sea. SpongeBob pauses, tilting his head upward, listening. The hum has deepened. It now sounds like a distant choir, hundreds of soft voices layered in harmony, as if the bubbles themselves are remembering every laugh, every sigh, every song ever sung underwater. The music changes color notes, ripple through the air as golden lines of light. They twist around SpongeBob, wrapping him in a slow, glowing spiral that moves with his heartbeat. He closes his eyes, taking a deep, slow breath. Each inhale fills him with weightless calm. Each exhale scatters tiny bubbles into the air. They drift upward, joining the others, a million small echoes of breath. The camera moves closer now, a slow push-in to SpongeBob's face. His expression is serene. The reflections of bubbles dance across his eyes, making them look like twin galaxies of light. He whispers, "Maybe every bubble is a piece of someone's dream. And this must be where they all come to rest." The sea responds softly. The waves rise a little higher, pulsing brighter, as if agreeing. SpongeBob sits down on a bubble beside him, cross-legged, his hands resting lightly on his knees. Beneath him, the orb glows a calm cyan, rocking gently like a cradle. He looks out across the horizon again. Far away, waves of bubbles roll like gentle hills, reflecting faint streaks of light, maybe from an unseen moon, maybe from the dreams themselves. He feels time dissolving. There's no morning or night here, only rhythm. Only the slow, eternal breathing of the dream sea. He dips his hand into the bubble beneath him. Instead of popping, it stretches ripples of light flow out like ink in water. Tiny, luminous particles rise from his touch and float away, joining the others. The glow from the waves starts to increase. The color deepens, shifting from silver blue to glowing gold. The entire sea begins to shimmer more intensely, as if it's waking up. The music swells gently, echoing through the space. Deep bass hums mixed with delicate chime tones, like the sound of crystal wind bells moving underwater. The camera pulls back wide aerial again, showing SpongeBob as a tiny, glowing figure floating in the vast, endless ocean of bubbles. Each wave moves like a heartbeat, and the whole world seems alive with soft energy. He whispers again, smiling faintly. This sea never ends. A final bubble drifts by, large and slow, reflecting SpongeBob's image and behind it, faint outlines of his friends, smiling in the glow. He reaches out to touch it. The moment his hand connects, the bubble bends, and everything around him ripples like fabric in the wind. The dream deepens again. The world ripples. For a brief second, everything stretches colors, bending like light through glass, then reforms into a new scene. The bubble sea grows deeper. The waves now move more slowly, their edges glowing with threads of golden light that drift upward like reverse rain. SpongeBob looks around in awe. The bubbles here are larger, some the size of houses, others as vast as mountains. Inside each, faint silhouettes drift like ghosts of memory. One bubble beside him trembles faintly, its surface swirling with deep violet light. Curious, SpongeBob floats closer, pressing his hands gently to its curved edge. The surface parts like silk. Inside, he sees himself sitting in his pineapple house. Years ago, younger, simpler, laughing as he blows bubbles with Gary on his shoulder. Each bubble pops and releases a small giggle into the air. He watches the memory replay, looping softly, glowing from within. Hey, that's me, SpongeBob whispers, smiling. That's one of my favorite days. He leans closer, and the bubble flickers again this time. It shows Patrick sitting beside him. They're both holding spatulas, pretending to sword fight while bubbles float all around. The laughter from inside the memory seems to spill into the sea itself, becoming a faint echo that fades into the hum of the surrounding bubbles. SpongeBob wipes a small tear from his cheek, though even in dreams tears look like pearls. He whispers softly, "Every bubble holds a day I loved." Then he looks around. The vast sea shimmers as though, in response, the waves rising slightly. Their bubbles glowing brighter, like candles being lit one by one. Each orb flickers to life, showing glimpses of memories, not just his, but of the whole ocean world. Jellyfish gliding over coral hills. Mr. Krabs counting coins by lantern light. Squidward painting quietly as rain falls outside. Sandy gazing through her dome's glass, watching the moonlight. Each moment floats, delicate and still, as if the entire ocean's heartbeats are suspended in these tiny globes. SpongeBob floats between them, moving slowly, reverently. His fingertips brush past each bubble, leaving faint ripples of light that merge with the next, connecting one memory to another. Then as he drifts deeper, the light begins to shift again. The colors fade from gold to soft indigo. The sea below becomes darker, mysterious. The bubbles here don't glow, they shimmer faintly, like faint dreams on the edge of waking. SpongeBob tilts his head, whispering, "Where am I now?" He looks down and sees the ocean floor, but not like the one in real life. This floor is made entirely of crushed, broken bubbles, fragments of light scattered like jewels. They pulse faintly with life, flickering like dying stars. SpongeBob kneels down to touch one. The fragment glows softly, revealing an image. For just a moment, SpongeBob waving goodbye to someone, his face slightly sad, then it fades into nothing. He realizes these are forgotten bubbles, dreams that popped. He sits quietly, letting the thoughts sink in. The sea around him hums again, but now the tone is lower, slower, like a lullaby sung by the ocean itself. Suddenly, a gentle current stirs. The waves part, and from beneath the glowing fragments, something rises, a cluster of larger, cracked bubbles bound together, glowing faintly from within. They float upward in slow motion, leaving trails of light behind them. As they pass, SpongeBob can see faint shapes inside. A child's drawing of a jellyfish fading away. A half-formed melody that sounds like Squidward's clarinet. A Krabby Patty floating like a tiny moon, its glow dim but warm. Each image feels incomplete, half-remembered, half-dreamed. SpongeBob watches silently, feeling both awe and sadness. Even dreams fade, but they still shine a little. He cups his hands together and gently catches one of the cracked bubbles. It trembles softly, pulsing weakly in his palms. The camera zooms in, extreme close-up showing his reflection, warped inside the fractured orb. He smiles softly and whispers, "Don't worry, little dream. You can float again." He releases it, and the bubble drifts upward, slowly healing as it rises. The cracks mend themselves in a swirl of golden dust, and by the time it reaches the surface, it's whole again, glowing brighter than before. The entire sea seems to notice. Other cracked bubbles begin to rise, glowing gently as they drift toward the upper currents. A wave of light spreads outward like dawn breaking underwater. The sound design shifts. Faint harp strings begin to intertwine with deep bass tones, giving the impression of a world slowly waking or remembering itself. SpongeBob floats upward again, following the glowing bubbles. The higher he rises, the brighter everything becomes. The once dark sea transforms into a shifting field of colors: lilac, cyan, gold, and pearl blending together like watercolors. He laughs, spinning slowly in place, arms stretched wide. "I can't believe this place exists. It's like the ocean is dreaming too." Above him, the schools of lightfish return, but now they're joined by new shapes. Giant manta rays made of translucent film, gliding gracefully through the air. Their bodies are see-through, filled with tiny bubbles that sparkle like stars as they move. Each flap of their wings sends ripples across the sea's surface. SpongeBob watches them in awe, his mouth slightly open. One of the manta rays glides low, close to him, its massive wingtip brushing the bubbles beside him. The contact creates a slow-motion explosion of light, tiny bubbles bursting into golden sparks that float away like fireflies. The ray circles SpongeBob once, then rises again, disappearing into the misty glow above. He waves, calling softly, "Goodbye. Tell the sea I said hi." For a few long moments, he floats still, watching the afterglow fade. Then he looks down again and sees that his reflection has changed. The bubbles beneath him no longer show memories, they show possibilities. Faint outlines of futures yet to come. Him discovering new jellyfish fields, new friends laughing together, new days yet unlived. He feels warmth spread through him, a gentle sense of hope. The camera moves closer. The sound of bubbles becomes rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. SpongeBob whispers, "This sea, it never forgets what it loves." Then slowly he reaches out and presses his palm against the largest bubble near him. It ripples once and opens like a doorway. Beyond it, the light grows brighter, warmer, shimmering like sunrise through the water. SpongeBob takes a deep breath, smiles softly, and swims through. The moment he does, the camera pans wide again, showing the sea behind him rippling, glowing, alive with color and sound. The dream continues to evolve, and SpongeBob drifts deeper into its heart. As SpongeBob drifts through the glowing doorway, a wave of light washes over him. It feels warm, soft like sunlight filtered through 1,000 layers of water. He blinks. The world has changed again. Now the bubbles around him move in rhythmic patterns, rising and falling like gentle breathing. The space feels alive, not empty, not silent, but pulsing softly, like the ocean itself is dreaming. Everywhere he looks, new shapes emerge, floating ribbons of light, spiraling schools of translucent fish, faint shadows that look like drifting clouds. He whispers, "It's like I'm floating inside a living sky." The camera pans wide, showing SpongeBob as a small golden figure surrounded by endless light. The bubbles stretch in all directions, each reflecting a soft hue: lavender, turquoise, pale pink, faint silver. When they touch, they merge for a moment, creating a brief flash before separating again, like gentle, glowing heartbeats. SpongeBob spins slowly, arms out, letting the current guide him. His laughter echoes through the water, blending with the low hum that surrounds everything. The sound isn't just noise, it feels like a song. The ocean is singing, softly, slowly, eternally. Then something catches his attention. A cluster of bubbles ahead is moving differently, not drifting like the others, but swirling together, forming a spiral shape. It glows more brightly than anything else in sight. Curious, SpongeBob swims closer. The spiral expands as he nears it, drawing him in. Inside, the bubbles are perfectly aligned, their reflections forming what looks like a tunnel of stars. Each one contains an image, and as SpongeBob passes by, the pictures come alive. Him helping Mr. Krabs clean the Krusty Krab late at night. Patrick laughing so hard that his rock home shakes. Squidward accidentally joining SpongeBob in a jellyfishing trip and almost smiling. Sandy handing SpongeBob a new invention, sparks of joy in her eyes. The memories swirl around him like constellations. He reaches out a hand, touching one bubble as it floats by. This one shows him sitting quietly on his bed, writing in a small notebook, something he doesn't remember ever doing. Inside the bubble, he can see the words on the page. "I love my friend. I love my home. I love this ocean." His chest tightens softly. "Maybe. Dreams remember things we forget," he whispers. The camera pans in on his face, his eyes wide, glowing faintly in the reflected light. The scene is silent for a few seconds, only the faint hum of bubbles filling the space. Then the spiral begins to move again, this time expanding outward. The bubbles scatter like seeds on the current, creating trails of light that weave and curl around SpongeBob. He drifts among them, feeling the soft touches of their glowing paths brushing against his hands. A faint current tugs at him, pulling him upward. He doesn't resist, he lets it carry him higher, where the colors begin to shift from deep blue to a golden pearl tone. It's warmer here, softer, quieter. The sea around him begins to resemble the surface of a dreamscape, sunset glowing mist above, rippling reflections below. Every few seconds, a small bubble pops near his ear, releasing the faintest whisper, not of words, but of laughter, music, voices, fragments of moments that once existed. The sounds overlap, blending into a gentle harmony that fills the entire space. He listens, smiling faintly. "It's like everyone I know is right here with me." A massive bubble floats by, larger than any before. Its glow is so bright that SpongeBob shields his eyes for a second. Inside, faint shapes move entire scenes. Bikini Bottom itself shimmers within, the Krusty Krab, jellyfish fields, the Chum Bucket. The Goo Lagoon all miniaturized, peaceful, frozen in a glowing dream. He approaches slowly, his reflection merging with the world inside. He can see tiny versions of his friends, smiling and waving at him. They look happy, calm, surrounded by little orbs of light. SpongeBob reaches out and touches the bubble's surface. It ripples gently, sending waves of light outward like touching the surface of a calm pond. Suddenly, the massive bubble bursts, but not with sound or chaos. Instead, it releases a soft wave of glittering dust that spreads across the sea like a sigh. The fragments swirl around SpongeBob, clinging to his clothes and skin, turning him into a faintly glowing silhouette. He laughs, spinning in the current, arms open wide. It's beautiful. It's like, I'm made of dreams too. For a brief moment, he feels weightless, completely one with the sea. No sound, no thought, just motion, the rhythm of the waves, the flicker of light, the soft warmth of memory. Then far in the distance, something changes. A faint shimmer, brighter than all the others, begins to form. It grows like a distant sunrise, casting golden light across the bubble waves. SpongeBob squints, trying to see. The light moves closer, slowly, gracefully, until he realizes it's not just light, it's something within it. A shape, a figure. At first, it looks like a glowing reflection, but then it solidifies. It's him. Another SpongeBob, a reflection, made of pure light floating calmly in the center of the glowing sea. The real SpongeBob blinks. Me? The glowing reflection smiles. No words are spoken, but a sense of calm fills the space. It feels like the sea itself is speaking through this reflection, a piece of SpongeBob's heart made visible. The two float closer until they're only a few feet apart. The reflection reaches out its hand, mirroring SpongeBob's movements perfectly. Their fingertips touch, and the entire sea pulses in response. The bubbles around them flash once, turning the space into a galaxy of color. In that instant, SpongeBob's mind fills with light memories, emotions, laughter, every small kindness and joy he's ever experienced, all glowing together. The sea hums like a great heartbeat, steady and slow. Then the reflection dissolves, melting back into the bubbles around him. The light lingers for a while, then begins to fade. SpongeBob drifts downward again, his expression peaceful. He whispers, "Maybe every bubble I've blown was trying to remember me, too." The sound of his voice fades into the soft hum of the sea. The camera pulls back wide, distant, showing SpongeBob as a tiny figure surrounded by the endless ocean of glowing bubbles. The waves move in slow motion now, their glow dimming into deep sapphire blue. Bubbles rise like embers into the dark water above, fading gently into the infinite. The harp music returns faint, slow, wrapping around the sound of his quiet breathing. The sea is calm again. SpongeBob closes his eyes and smiles, floating still, as if the ocean itself has taken him into its arms. The ocean of bubbles begins to slow. The shimmering movements that once danced like living stars now drift gently, like snow falling through water. The light fades to a softer hue, no longer brilliant blues and pinks, but muted tones of pearl, lilac, and sea-glow white. SpongeBob floats quietly, his arms out, his body weightless. He's not swimming anymore, just suspended, carried by the rhythm of unseen waves. Tiny bubbles rise from his fingertips, drifting away in silence. He looks around, realizing that the great sea of bubbles, the infinite horizon that once stretched forever, is beginning to thin. The bubbles are rising higher, fading into the soft light above. Each one pops silently, leaving behind a brief flicker of glow before vanishing. It's as though the dream is exhaling, letting go. SpongeBob whispers softly to himself, "Is this the end of the dream, or the beginning of another one?" His voice doesn't echo. It dissolves into the water around him, as if the sea itself has absorbed his words. He can feel the soft current shifting again, no longer circular or wide, but directional, pulling him gently forward. He doesn't fight it. He lets it carry him. The camera moves in slow motion, tracking him from below his silhouette, glowing faintly as he drifts across the screen, surrounded by the last few bubbles rising toward the surface. As he floats, he notices that some of the bubbles nearby are different, smaller, clearer. Inside them, faint lights shimmer like tiny fireflies trapped in glass. He leans closer to one and peers inside. A small image appears blurry at first, then clear. It's the Krusty Krab. He sees himself standing behind the grill, humming, flipping Krabby Patties as the smell fills the restaurant. He smiles softly. "Oh, I remember that day." He touches the bubble gently. It pops, releasing a faint burst of golden light that swirls around his fingers before vanishing. He drifts to the next bubble. This one shows him and Patrick blowing bubbles together on a sunny afternoon. Their laughter echoes faintly from within, warm, childlike, pure. SpongeBob laughs too, softly. Patrick would love this place. Another bubble floats by, showing Squidward sitting outside his house, quietly sketching. SpongeBob's dream self walks up to him and offers lemonade. Squidward takes it, gives a small nod, a moment of peace between them. SpongeBob's eyes soften. Even Squidward looks happy in here. Each bubble he touches fades away, leaving trails of light that wrap gently around his hands. It feels as though every memory he sees is returning to him, not as something gone, but as something still alive inside the dream. The current carries him upward now. The water around him becomes lighter, more transparent. The glow shifts into soft morning tones, pale golds and faint turquoise. The bubbles are fewer now, but larger, drifting like lanterns in a quiet sky. A faint melody begins to play, not the harp tones from before, but something simpler, like a lullaby, played on seashell chimes. It flows with the motion of the waves, a rhythm that feels timeless, the same sound that might have existed before the ocean ever formed. SpongeBob closes his eyes, listening. He can feel his body rising slowly, his heart beating softly with the rhythm of the song. The camera zooms out, showing him surrounded by a spiral of golden bubbles, moving upward toward a faint light in the distance. When he opens his eyes again, the scene has changed once more. He's floating just below what looks like the ocean's surface, though it's not quite real. Above him, the light ripples like liquid glass, casting moving reflections across his face. Below him, the last traces of the bubble sea glow faintly, a fading galaxy beneath the waves. He reaches upward, touching this shimmering surface. It ripples gently, mirroring his hand. For a moment, it looks like he's touching the sky. As he watches, a single bubble rises from below, glowing brighter than all the rest. It floats toward him, perfectly round, reflecting the light of the dream. Inside the bubble, faint shapes appear again this time. All his friends together, laughing, talking, living. Patrick holding a popsicle. Sandy building something in her lab. Squidward sitting by a coral window, lost in music. Mr. Krabs counting money, then chuckling softly. And in the middle of them all, SpongeBob, smiling. The real SpongeBob's eyes fill with warmth. He places his hand on the bubble, his voice a whisper. I guess every memory is just a bubble waiting to be remembered. The bubble glows brighter, then slowly drifts upward, passing through the shimmering surface above. As it goes, it leaves behind a soft streak of golden light, a thread connecting the dream below to the sky above. The current shifts one last time, wrapping around SpongeBob like a blanket. He closes his eyes, feeling its soft pull. He doesn't resist. He lets himself drift with it upward into the calm light. The camera angle changes, pulling back higher and higher, showing the entire expanse of the bubble sea below. The waves move slowly, fading into soft mist. The golden light expands, filling the frame until SpongeBob is just a small, glowing silhouette at its center. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that hums softly, like the pause between heartbeats. SpongeBob drifts slowly through the still water, his movements light and unhurried, as if time itself has begun to slow down around him. The glow from the bubble sea has faded into something calmer, a faint blue-gray light that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Tiny particles of shimmer float through the water like dust caught in sunlight. The world feels weightless, endless, quiet. SpongeBob tilts his head, noticing faint shapes emerging in the water around him. They're not quite solid, faint circles at first, like halos of glass drifting in slow motion. Then as he moves closer, he realizes what they are. Bubbles. But these aren't like the ones before. These are larger, far larger, each one almost his size. And instead of glowing from within, they reflect the world around them. He can see his own reflection, distorted slightly by the curve of each surface, his wide eyes shimmering, his little tie floating gently upward in the current. He waves at his reflection and giggles softly, watching the image wave back at him with a dreamy lag, as though the ocean itself were thinking about it before responding. Then something changes. The reflection shifts, and suddenly, it's not him he's seeing anymore. Inside one of the great bubbles, he sees Patrick. His best friend lies peacefully under his rock, snoring softly, bubbles escaping with every breath. A little jellyfish floats by and lands gently on Patrick's head, pulsing faintly like a glowing crown. Patrick doesn't notice, he just snores again, smiling in his sleep. SpongeBob laughs quietly. Patrick, you're dreaming too, huh? His voice echoes faintly, then fades into the soft hum of the water. As he watches, the reflection of Patrick looks up, eyes still half closed, and waves lazily at SpongeBob from within the bubble. SpongeBob's eyes widen in surprise. You can see me? Patrick's image just yawns, gives a sleepy thumbs up, and drifts slowly backward as the bubble rises away, shimmering softly until it disappears into the distance. SpongeBob's laughter fades into a warm smile. He looks around, and now more bubbles are appearing. Each one glows faintly from within, their light forming patterns across the ocean floor like rippling constellations. He swims gently toward another bubble. Inside this one, he sees Sandy Cheeks sitting cross-legged inside her tree dome, gazing up through the glass roof at a sky full of stars. Her helmet glints faintly under the light of a floating lantern, and beside her sits a small notebook filled with sketches and equations. Every now and then she glances up, her expression soft, not the focused scientist look she usually has, but something calm, wistful. SpongeBob presses his hands to the bubble's surface. Hey, Sandy! For a second, her reflection turns toward him. She doesn't speak, but she smiles, a knowing little smile, like she's aware of him even if she can't truly see him. The stars around her glow brighter for a moment, then fade as the bubble drifts upward, leaving trails of light behind. SpongeBob drifts quietly for a moment, surrounded by nothing but soft blue mist and the slow shimmer of fading bubbles. He feels a warmth in his chest, a kind of quiet gratitude that doesn't need words. Each reflection feels like a heartbeat, echoing softly in the dream. Then out of the corner of his eye, he sees another flicker, a warm golden light. He turns. A new bubble floats toward him, glowing with a deeper hue, like sunset light trapped inside water. Inside it, Mr. Krabs sits at his desk inside the Krusty Krab office. Stacks of golden coins surround him, but they aren't normal coins. They shimmer, glowing faintly, each one engraved with something different. When SpongeBob looks closely, he realizes they're not marked with money symbols. They have memories on them. Tiny images shimmer on each surface. SpongeBob flipping patties, customers laughing, Squidward rolling his eyes but staying anyway. Each coin holds a tiny, flickering moment, small but precious. Mr. Krabs picks one up and squints at it. Then he chuckles softly and places it back down with care. For once, he's not counting. He's remembering. SpongeBob's smile grows tender. You're not so greedy after all, huh, Mr. Krabs? The reflection inside the bubble looks up for a brief second as though it hurt him. Mr. Krabs gives a faint grin and nods before the image fades, the bubble rising upward until it joins the others. The water shimmers faintly with the light of all those drifting memories. Every bubble reflects something, some familiar, some strange. One shows the chum bucket, quiet and dark, with Plankton sitting by a small flickering lamp, staring thoughtfully at a jar labeled Dreams. Another shows Mrs. Puff steering a tiny boat through calm seas, smiling peacefully for the first time in years. Even Gary appears in one curled up on SpongeBob's bed, softly purring in his sleep. Each image moves gently like pages of a story turning by themselves. The camera moves in a wide circle around SpongeBob, showing dozens of glowing bubbles drifting around him, each one holding a tiny reflection of the people and moments he loves. It's as though the entire ocean has become a memory mirror, shimmering with all the warmth he's ever known. SpongeBob floats in the middle, turning slowly, his eyes wide with wonder. He feels no fear, no sadness, only connection. As the bubbles move past, he reaches out to each one, his fingers brushing their cool surfaces. Each time, a soft hum echoes through the water like the bubbles are singing to him. He doesn't understand the melody, but it feels familiar. It sounds like laughter, friendship, home. The light grows warmer now, shifting from soft blue to golden coral hues. The bubbles glow brighter, their reflections becoming clearer, no longer just images, but living moments that breathe and shimmer. SpongeBob turns and whispers softly, "Everyone's still with me, even here." He smiles and closes his eyes for a moment, letting the water move around him. The gentle current flows past like a sigh, carrying the bubbles upward, one by one. Each one passes close to his face, each reflection pausing briefly to smile, to wave, to shimmer before floating away. The soundscape shifts. Harp tones return, but slower now, blending with lullaby-like chimes and a soft ocean hum that seems to breathe in rhythm with SpongeBob himself. The scene slows, every movement smooth and dreamlike, a ballet of memories suspended in glowing glass. For a long moment, SpongeBob just floats there, surrounded by quiet warmth. The bubbles drift past him like planets in the slow orbit, their soft light casting ripples of color across the water. He feels tiny inside the vastness of this dream, but never lonely. Every shimmer, every reflection, feels alive, filled with care, laughter, and the kind of peace he rarely feels during the busy days of Krusty Krab shifts and jellyfishing adventures. He drifts closer to one bubble that glows in deep turquoise hues. The surface ripples slightly like it's breathing. As he leans in, he sees himself standing behind the Krusty Krab counter, spatula in hand, flipping patties with a giant grin. But this isn't just him. He recognizes the angle, the way the scene looks slightly tilted, the way the focus drifts. Then it clicks. This is how Squidward sees him. The camera slowly zooms closer on the reflection. A SpongeBob in the bubble is cheerful, whistling, flipping patties perfectly in rhythm. Behind him, Squidward stands at the register, looking half asleep, arms crossed. But if you look closely, there's something else. For just a split second, his eyelids lift, his mouth twitches, almost like a smile. SpongeBob gasps softly, his eyes wide. Wait a second. Squidward, actually? He stops himself, then chuckles. Well, maybe just a tiny smile counts. He watches the reflection for a while, mesmerized. Every now and then, the reflection of Squidward sighs, but not in anger, not in boredom. It's more like a sigh of quiet comfort. The sigh of someone who pretends to be annoyed, but secretly finds peace in the sound of sizzling patties and SpongeBob's never-ending cheer. The bubble ripples again, soft and slow, before drifting away into the hazy blue. SpongeBob watches it go, his hand resting over his heart. Even Squidward has a little warmth inside, he whispers. His voice feels small, but the water seems to carry it far, echoing softly until it fades into the deep. Then another bubble approaches. This one glows in gentle orange light, like sunset warmth bottled inside water. SpongeBob moves closer, and as the image clears, he sees something that makes him laugh quietly through his nose. It's Patrick again. But this time, Patrick's awake, holding a net and trying to catch jellyfish. Only he's terrible at it. He swings wildly, trips over seaweed, and gets his net tangled around his head. Meanwhile, SpongeBob's reflection runs up to help, laughing all the while, his hands gently untangling the net. The moment ends with both of them laughing uncontrollably, jellyfish floating peacefully above them. SpongeBob tilts his head, smiling softly. I remember this day, he says, but I didn't know Patrick remembered it too. Then something magical happens. The camera zooms slowly inside the bubble. Patrick's laughter echoes faintly, but there's something different about it now. His voice, distant and dreamy, says, You're my best buddy, SpongeBob, no matter how many jellyfish sting us. The sound isn't loud. It's soft, like an echo from memory. But SpongeBob hears it clear as day. He places a hand over the bubble. Best buddies forever, he whispers. The surface of the bubble ripples again, not from current, but from emotion. It shines brighter for a moment, as though Patrick's laughter turned into light itself. Then it drifts away, leaving behind a faint shimmer trail that spirals upward like a ribbon. As it disappears, SpongeBob realizes something. These bubbles aren't just showing memories of others. They're showing memories of how others see him. Each reflection is like a gentle reminder that he's been part of so many lives, even when he didn't realize it. A soft piano tone plays in the background now, mingling with the faint underwater hum. The water feels thicker with feeling, glowing softly with pastel gold and coral tones. He turns slowly, watching the space around him shift. The bubbles begin to move differently now. They're not drifting randomly anymore. They're orbiting him, forming a slow spiral like planets circling a small, glowing sun. Except here, the sun isn't a star. It's SpongeBob himself. He laughs quietly in disbelief. Gee, I'm not that special. But as he says it, the bubbles hum softly, their light pulsing in gentle rhythm, almost like they're answering back. Each bubble flashes briefly, showing tiny moments from his life. Him making Krabby Patties, helping Sandy with her rocket, cheering for Squidward's concert even when no one else showed up, helping Mrs. Puff when she felt overwhelmed, even comforting Plankton after one of his failed schemes. Each scene lasts only seconds, but together they paint something enormous, a life built from care. SpongeBob looks around, his eyes shining. His laughter turns into a quiet sigh of contentment. The glow from the bubbles brightens just enough to reflect in his pupils, tiny stars floating in a sea of gold. The background sound fades into near silence now. Only the faint, deep hum of the ocean remains, like the steady rhythm of breathing. SpongeBob closes his eyes, letting the current carry him slowly through the middle of the spiral. The bubbles drift outward, giving him space, as if the dream itself understands his need for stillness. He whispers softly, "Everyone's a part of me, and I'm a part of them." The words echo faintly, repeating through the water softer and softer, until they sound like a lullaby being sung back to him by the ocean itself. Tiny ripples form across the surface of every bubble, shimmering with pastel waves of light, pinks, blues, and golds blending together like watercolor. Then, just for a moment, the camera pans far back. From above, the bubbles form a shape, a glowing heart made of memories, pulsing slowly in the quiet sea. SpongeBob floats in the center, tiny but radiant, eyes closed, smiling peacefully. The world feels timeless, like this dream could last forever. The water around SpongeBob begins to change again. It thickens with color, the edges of his vision glowing in soft halos. What were once thousands of individual bubbles now start to drift toward each other, slowly gathering in gentle motion. At first, SpongeBob worries, "Hey, don't bump into each other. You'll pop." But to his surprise, they don't. Instead, when two bubbles touch, they fuse with a tiny flash of light, becoming one larger, more luminous sphere. He stares in awe. Each merging bubble carries its own scene. Patrick laughing, Squidward frowning, Sandy working, Mr. Krabs counting coins, and when they blend, their scenes melt together, forming something new. Patrick overlaps with the flickering sounds from Sandy's lab. Squidward's clarinet notes drift through the background like a melody threading the dream together. The sound becomes harmonious, every friend, every memory blending into a lullaby made of connection. SpongeBob floats slowly upward through this glowing fusion, his hands brushing past the merging bubbles. Each touch sends a soft hum through his fingertips, like feeling music instead of hearing it. He realizes he's no longer inside a random sea of memories. He's inside something living. The dream itself feels aware, as if Bikini Bottom's spirit has come alive to wrap him in its warmth. All those moments, silly, sad, funny, embarrassing, they aren't just gone. They're alive inside him, replaying in harmony, forever. He looks down and sees one enormous bubble beginning to form beneath him, a slow, expanding orb made from the merging of hundreds more. It glows from within, lights swirling in blues, pinks, and faint golds, reflecting shapes that pulse like heartbeats. The camera slowly zooms out. SpongeBob becomes a tiny figure above an ocean made entirely of memory. The surface ripples in slow motion, showing distorted but beautiful reflections. Patrick's laugh, Squidward's sigh, Sandy's smile. Each image floats for a moment before fading into another. SpongeBob's eyes widen. It's everyone, all together. He swims closer, reaching out. The large bubble hums softly, its surface glowing brighter as his hand nears it. The texture feels warm, like soft water that's somehow solid. Inside, the scenes swirl faster, not chaotic, but alive, connected by threads of light. He sees the Krusty Krab, glowing warmly against a sea of darkness. Inside, everyone is laughing, not just him, but even Squidward, whose clarinet playing fills the background while Mr. Krabs taps his claw to the rhythm. Sandy sits nearby, scribbling in her notebook, her helmet off, somehow breathing just fine in this dream world. Patrick sits at the counter, eating a Krabby Patty and grinning from ear to ear. Everything feels brighter, softer, calmer. SpongeBob whispers, "Is this what the ocean feels when it dreams?" The camera pans slowly around him, every bubble, every light, every flicker of memory forming into constellations. It's as if Bikini Bottom isn't underwater anymore. It's floating in the stars, suspended between sea and sky. Tiny sparkles drift upward like glowing sand. SpongeBob watches them rise, noticing they carry tiny reflections within microscenes, fragments of days he'd forgotten. Him helping Squidward carry groceries, cleaning up jellyfish fields after a storm, singing to Gary at bedtime, giving Plankton a Krabby Patty when no one else would. Each spark flickers as it drifts higher, vanishing softly, but instead of sadness, SpongeBob feels warmth spread through his chest. Every small act, every quiet kindness had meaning. Even if no one remembered, the ocean did. The background hum deepens now, a low, resonant vibration, like a whale song mixed with distant bells. It fills the space between the bubbles, giving rhythm to the floating world. The lighting dims slightly, shifting into deeper blues and violets, like twilight slowly settling across the dream. Then something changes. One large bubble above him begins to shimmer more intensely than the rest, its light pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Curious, SpongeBob floats closer. Inside, he sees something different. It's his friends again, but not in memory. They're here, right now, in his dream. Patrick waves lazily, half asleep, floating upside down in slow motion. Sandy tinkers with a glowing machine that shoots sparkles into the water. Squidward sits on a coral chair, clarinet resting beside him, eyes closed as if meditating. Even Mr. Krabs appears smiling, surprisingly gentle, counting golden bubbles that float like coins. SpongeBob gasps softly, his mouth forming a tiny O of wonder. "They're dreaming, too," he whispers. Maybe we're all dreaming together." He looks around again and suddenly realizes that the large bubble isn't separate anymore. It's connected to every smaller one through streams of glowing particles like veins of light. Each line hums faintly with energy, the heartbeat of connection. It feels like all their dreams are touching, sharing the same ocean of thought, memory, and feeling. The camera pulls back far enough to show the full shape. The bubbles aren't random at all. They form a vast, glowing, coral-like structure, a living reef made of dreams. Every node is someone's memory, every glow a piece of kindness, friendship, or laughter. SpongeBob floats in the center of it all, small yet radiant, his expression calm and deeply peaceful. He laughs softly to himself, his voice echoing like ripples through water. So this is what it feels like to be part of everything. The lighting shifts again from blue to rose gold, then back to cool teal. Reflections shimmer across the bubbles, like sunrise light on gentle waves. What once was glowing light now folds back into motion, a slow and eternal drift. SpongeBob feels himself floating weightlessly through a sea that has forgotten its boundaries. There is no up, no down, only the gentle pulse of blue and gold mist curling around him, like the slow rhythm of breath. The world hums softly, a sound between a lullaby and the deep whisper of the ocean's heart. He is not afraid. He is not even curious anymore. Curiosity has given way to something deeper, quiet wonder. His hands drift lazily by his sides, fingers tracing the faint light trails left by invisible currents. Tiny bubbles rise from nowhere, spinning around him like sleepy fireflies. When they burst, they release small chimes and the faint sound of laughter, the memory of waves, the whisper of a friend's voice long carried away by time. He drifts, slowly, endlessly. The light of his friends Patrick, Sandy, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and even Gary still lingers in his mind, but now they are like warm stars in the distance, not quite seen but always felt. Each breath feels like floating through a memory too wide to describe. The air, or the dream's version of it, tastes faintly of salt and sweetness, like the scent of the sea after rain. A gentle current brushes past him, turning him slowly. He sees that the space around him is no longer filled with single bubbles. It has transformed into layers, thousands upon thousands of drifting spheres stacked together like clouds, each glowing faintly, forming what looks like the architecture of the ocean's subconscious. Some bubbles are huge, pulsing like living orbs of light. Others are small, flickering in and out of sight like stars. He reaches toward one without thinking. It floats closer, swirling with a silvery gleam. Inside, he glimpses something strange, not a memory this time, but a reflection of his feeling. A version of himself gently spinning in circles, humming a song he doesn't remember ever hearing. He blinks, smiling softly. "You look peaceful," he says almost playfully, and his reflection hums back in silence, the melody continuing through the water. He continues to drift forward. The landscape begins to change again, not suddenly, but with the slow inevitability of a tide coming in. The colors deepen. The once pastel hues of dreamlight shift into darker shades of indigo, deep violet, and moonlit silver. The bubbles around him are fewer now, but larger, glowing like lanterns in a vast and sleeping ocean. Their surfaces ripple gently as if breathing. Every so often, SpongeBob passes through a shimmer, a thin veil of light that feels cool against his skin. Each veil he passes through leaves faint patterns of glowing coral shapes, trailing off into the distance. It feels like floating through the layers of thought itself, as if the ocean's mind, like his own, has begun to dream. He starts to hum again, the same tune from before, slow, simple, but endlessly looping. The sound travels strangely through the water, echoing back at him from unseen corners. Then something curious happens. The bubbles begin to move in rhythm with his song. Each note makes them pulse faintly, as though the melody is what keeps this place alive. For a brief moment he laughs that familiar, goofy SpongeBob laugh, but even it comes out as something gentle and far away, softened by the dream. "Wow," he murmurs, looking around in awe. "It's like the whole ocean's listening." The scene around him feels infinite, yet not empty. There is a feeling of presence everywhere. Every ripple, every reflection, Every flicker of light feels alive, but in a way that is calm, not overwhelming. He wonders if maybe this is what jellyfish feel when they float through the sea at night, carried by unseen currents, simply existing in the great flow of things. The thought makes him smile. Jellyfish fields must look just like this right now, he thinks aloud. Quiet and shiny, everyone asleep, the bubbles drifting by. His voice trails off as he imagines it. The wide plains glowing under the moon, the coral swaying, and the tiny sparks of jellyfish pulsing with color. He closes his eyes for a moment and listens. The sound of the dream around him has changed. It's softer now, not the hum of bubbles, but something like the echo of a heartbeat far away. Boom, boom, boom. The rhythm matches his own. He breathes slowly, in sync with it. Each breath makes the world glow a little brighter, as if his presence itself sustains it. Then, from the distance, something begins to appear. A faint outline, glowing at the horizon, though in a place like this, horizon is just an idea. The shape grows clearer as he floats closer. It looks like a wave made of light, a great rolling swell of luminous bubbles, rising and falling in perfect silence. It stretches endlessly in both directions, like the edge of a dream meeting another dream. SpongeBob gazes at it in awe. The sight is too big to understand, yet it feels natural, like he's seen it before. Maybe in the moments between waking and sleep. The wave moves in slow motion, curling over itself, spilling faint trails of light that drift like falling stars. He feels a pull, gentle, irresistible, drawing him toward it. Not fear, not urgency, just the quiet call of the tide. He drifts closer. Each motion feels slower, as if time has softened. He reaches the crest of the glowing wave and stops. Beneath him, he sees the reflection of the entire dream, every memory bubble, every faint ripple of sound and color he has passed through. The whole sea glows beneath him, like a galaxy made of water. He whispers softly, "It's beautiful." Then something stirs. The wave shifts. And for the first time, he hears a voice not spoken, not heard, but felt through vibration and light. It isn't a voice of a person, but of the ocean itself. It says nothing in words, yet SpongeBob understands. Keep drifting. The dream isn't done. His eyes widen slightly and then soften into calm understanding. He nods. "Okay," he whispers. The wave rolls forward, and so does he, carried on its surface like a leaf on a current. The bubbles that form the wave begin to shimmer faster, releasing beams of soft light that bend and curl through the darkness like ribbons. The colors shift again, pinks and golds returning, brightening the deep blue. The ocean is awakening, but not to morning, to something more mysterious, a dream inside the dream. He takes one last look behind him, the quiet, vast field of fading bubbles, and then turns his gaze forward as the luminous current carries him farther into the unknown. Everything hums, everything glows, everything drifts, and SpongeBob, with eyes half open, begins to dream deeper still. The current carries SpongeBob onward, slow and unbroken, a ribbon of light weaving through the great expanse of dream. The wave of bubbles he rides on no longer feels like water. It feels like time itself, fluid, forgiving, and endless. Every ripple sends out soft beams that flicker through the depths, illuminating shadows of things that are not quite memories, not quite thoughts. The light around him thickens. It swirls in slow spirals, shaping faint outlines, maybe coral, maybe clouds that shimmer and dissolve before he can reach them. His reflection dances in fragments all around, multiplied across 1,000 tiny bubbles, each version of himself smiling faintly, as if to reassure him that he's not alone. Somewhere in the distance, a faint melody rises, delicate, fragile, and achingly familiar. It sounds like the song he once hummed while cleaning the Krusty Krab late at night, when the whole town was quiet, and even Squidward had stopped complaining. But here, in this endless sea of drifting bubbles, the song has changed. It's slower now, stretched out like a sigh carried by the current. The notes float past him like luminous threads, brushing gently against his fingers before fading away. He listens for a long while, eyes half closed, drifting deeper into the sound. There is comfort in it, a reminder of rhythm, of routine, of all the little things that make up a life. The wave beneath him begins to shift. The bubbles grow larger and clearer, and now, as he looks down through their translucent surfaces, he can see glimpses, faint images glowing in the depths. He squints, trying to focus. One bubble holds an image of him flipping Krabby Patties, his spatula gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Another shows Patrick holding a net, laughing uncontrollably as jellyfish circle around him. A third Squidward sitting on his couch, a record spinning softly beside him. The images move slowly, looping endlessly, like echoes from another world. Memories, SpongeBob whispers, his voice carried softly through the dream. But not mine alone. Everyone's. The realization makes him pause. Maybe this place isn't just his dream. Maybe it's the dream of Bikini Bottom itself, a shared space of warmth, laughter, and rest. The thought fills him with quiet awe. Every resident, every friend, every creature, all connected by the same drifting sea of memories. He smiles gently. Even Plankton must have a bubble here somewhere, he murmurs with a chuckle. Probably dreaming about finally getting that secret formula. The thought makes him laugh softly, and for a moment, the bubbles around him brighten, reacting to his joy. The ocean of dreams hums louder, colors deepening into bright turquoise and pale rose. The world seems to breathe with him. Then the current changes direction. A slow pull, like gravity shifting underwater. He feels himself descending, sinking through the light into deeper blues. The bubbles around him stretch vertically, turning into long trails that rise and vanish above. The hum lowers deeper, more resonant now the ocean's heartbeat. He opens his eyes wider. Below him, something vast glows faintly, a shimmering plain of giant bubbles, larger than houses, resting on the ocean floor like sleeping worlds. Each one pulses softly, as if alive. The sight is breathtaking and humbling. He floats closer, curiosity guiding him. The first massive bubble he reaches is tinted gold. Inside, he sees the Krusty Krab, perfectly still, empty yet filled with the faint light of the fryer. Grease bubbles rise in slow motion, forming glowing orbs before fading into air. The seats are empty, but everything looks peaceful, as if the restaurant itself is resting. SpongeBob presses his hand gently to the surface. The golden bubble ripples outward like silk. "Good night, Krusty Krab," he whispers. "You worked hard, too." He drifts away, reaching another. This one is deep, violet, darker, softer. Inside, Squidward sits by a window, painting. His brush moves in slow, dreamlike strokes across a canvas that glows faintly from within. There is no sound, just calm. SpongeBob watches quietly, smiling. "You're happy here," he says softly. "I'm glad." The next bubble glows pink. Inside, Patrick snores gently beneath a soft coral blanket. A half-eaten ice cream cone beside him. The scene makes SpongeBob laugh quietly again. The laughter echoes through the dream, making the nearby bubbles shimmer in response. "Sleep tight, buddy," he says with warmth. He continues to drift past the great sleeping orbs, feeling an invisible current guide him along. Each one shows someone he knows Sandy tinkering with tiny glowing machines in her tree dome. Mr. Krabs counting glowing coins that turn into bubbles and float away. Mrs. Puff resting peacefully in a floating chair, surrounded by glowing kelp leaves. Every life, every soul, all contained in these endless spheres resting in harmony. The ocean of dreams seems infinite now, and yet somehow intimate. Every bubble glows like a heartbeat, and SpongeBob realizes that the dream's pulse, that soft, steady rhythm, comes from all of them together. He pauses mid-drift, staring upward. Above him, the bubbles rise endlessly, fading into bright light. "We're all part of it," he whispers. "Every one of us." The thought fills him with quiet joy, the kind that doesn't need words. The ocean's hum softens, turning into a gentle melody again. SpongeBob feels his eyes flutter, the urge to sleep within sleep tugging gently at him. He folds his arms behind his head and lets the current carry him, drifting between the great bubbles like a feather between clouds. Every now and then, a small bubble floats close to his face, tiny and warm, and pops softly, releasing a faint glow that brushes against his cheek. Each one feels like a little goodbye, a thank you from the memories he's passing through. As the light grows brighter ahead, he realizes the current is speeding up, not fast, but purposeful, as if leading him somewhere. He feels no fear, only a calm anticipation. The glowing sea ahead seems to open wider, forming what looks like a great circular space filled with light. The bubbles around him rise faster, spiraling upward like a gentle storm of color. The sound of his heartbeat blends with the hum of the sea, and he feels something he can't quite name, a deep, peaceful belonging. The dream is changing again. The drift is no longer endless, is leading him somewhere. He blinks slowly, golden light spilling over his face as the ocean brightens around him. His reflection ripples in the currents like liquid sunlight. Everything begins to glow, and for a moment, SpongeBob feels as though he is both floating and standing still, like time has stopped, just to let him breathe. SpongeBob feels himself passing through the veil of light, a slow, glowing shimmer that wraps around him like the surface of a bubble stretching open. There is no resistance, only warmth. On the other side, everything changes. He finds himself floating in a vast chamber of stillness. The light here is softer, golden at the edges, but pale blue at its core, as though sunlight were filtering down from some faraway surface above. The bubbles around him are fewer now, but each one glows brighter, larger, almost alive. Their pulses create faint ripples through the water, like breathing in and out, perfectly synchronized. He looks around slowly. The silence is so deep it hums. Even the sound of the ocean feels distant, as if muted by reverence. It's as though he's reached the quietest part of a dream, where everything stops speaking and simply exists. Then from within the largest bubble at the center, a faint shimmer begins to swirl, a shape forming from the light. SpongeBob blinks. It's him. No, not exactly him. It's a reflection, but softer, calmer, eyes half closed in peace. The reflection smiles and places a hand against the inner surface of the bubble. SpongeBob instinctively reaches out, pressing his own hand to meet it. For a brief moment, their fingertips connect, and the world seems to ripple. A wave of gentle warmth rushes through him, carrying with it flashes, memories, laughter, sounds, faces, every moment that ever mattered. Patrick's giggle, Squidward's sigh, Mr. Krabs' booming laugh, Sandy's confident grin, Gary's quiet meow. The images blend into a slow, fluid dance of color, drifting all around him like small, glowing petals carried by the current. He understands. This place isn't just a dream, it's the space where all feelings go when they're done being felt. Every laugh, every tear, every spark of joy or kindness, they float here, turning into light, resting gently in the ocean's heart. He looks up. The golden light above him begins to move in slow, wave-like motions, bending into flowing ribbons that weave around him. The ribbons pulse with the same rhythm as his breathing. They twist together, merging, forming delicate patterns like threads of silk in water. SpongeBob closes his eyes and drifts through them, letting them brush against his arms, his cheeks, his hair. Each one hums softly when it touches him, a single note of music, warm and familiar. Together they create a melody so tender it feels alive. He can't tell where the sound comes from anymore, from the bubbles, the light, or himself. Maybe from all three. He whispers, "It's all connected. Every dream, every moment." A small bubble floats by, larger than his palm. Inside, he sees a faint vision, SpongeBob himself sitting with Patrick at Goo Lagoon, laughing so hard they both fall into the sand. The image is bright, perfect. He watches it lovingly as the bubble drifts past and pops, leaving behind a faint shimmer that tickles his nose. Another floats by him, helping Squidward carry groceries, both slipping on a puddle and landing in a heap. He laughs softly, shaking his head, even the embarrassing ones. He drifts deeper, watching more bubbles pass so many tiny worlds, all filled with warmth, laughter, and light. Each one bursts softly, releasing a little glow that joins the others floating through the space. The chamber slowly fills with countless sparks, all moving together like fireflies underwater. SpongeBob looks around in awe. It's beautiful. The reflection in a central bubble watches him, still smiling. Then it slowly dissolves, not disappearing, but spreading, its glow seeping into the surrounding light. The chamber brightens in response, as if the dream itself is breathing him in, accepting him into its calm. He floats with arms wide, feeling his heart beat slower, deeper, until it matches the rhythm of the ocean around him. The bubbles move in waves, now large ones rising slowly, smaller ones drifting down, creating a spiral pattern that stretches infinitely. The sight is hypnotic. He feels as if the whole sea is turning with him, as if he's no longer floating through it, but as part of it. He whispers softly, almost afraid to break the silence. Am I dreaming of the ocean, or is the ocean dreaming of me? The only reply is the faint, resonant hum, gentle and endless. It doesn't matter, he realizes. Maybe both are true. Maybe this dream isn't something he entered. Maybe it's something that's always been here, waiting for him to notice. His thoughts grow lighter, his body even more weightless. He spreads his fingers and watches the faint trails of light between them, tiny glowing currents connecting every movement, every breath. He can feel the heartbeat of the dream, the rhythm of something vast and kind. The bubbles around him pulse again, and for a moment, their glow forms faint outlines, the shapes of jellyfish, coral, seaweed, all made of light. They rise, twist gently, and dissolve, leaving trails of tiny sparks. The whole scene looks like an underwater aurora, alive, breathing, infinite. The colors shift, deep blue into indigo, then violet, then soft pink. It feels like the end of a long day, not sad, not heavy, just peaceful. The light dims slightly, as though the ocean itself is settling down to rest. SpongeBob folds his hands together and whispers, "Thank you." He's not sure who he's thanking, the dream, the ocean, or his own heart, but it feels right. For the first time, he feels what true stillness means. No rush, no work, no worry. Just the quiet rhythm of existence, of being part of something larger than himself. Then he feels a faint tug, a gentle current brushing past his arm, like an invitation. He turns toward it. In the far distance, through a soft haze of golden light, he can see another shape forming faint and far, but familiar. It looks like the outline of his own bed, his pineapple house. The dream is bringing him home. He smiles. I guess it's almost time. The bubbles around him seem to nod, their pulses slowing in unison, fading into long, soft waves. The hum lowers, the melody softens, and light begins to drift away from the edges of the chamber. Not disappearing, just dimming, resting. SpongeBob looks one last time at the floating fireflies of memory, the tiny glows that once were laughter, kindness, friendship. He reaches out, lets a few land on his hands, then releases them back into the current. They swirl upward, merging with the light, forming faint trails that stretch toward the faraway shape of home. He takes a deep breath, slow and peaceful, and follows. The current carries him forward, gentle and certain. The scene behind him fades, the chamber of bubbles dissolving into soft starlight. Ahead, the shape of his pineapple home grows clearer, its windows glowing like small suns through the mist. He smiles once more as the dream sea folds around him, whispering good night in the language of bubbles. The golden current moves like silk around SpongeBob, carrying him through layers of faintly glowing mist. Each pulse of light feels like a heartbeat, slow, ancient, endless. The deeper he drifts into the current, the softer everything becomes. The hum of the dream fades to a tender hush, the kind that only exists between thoughts. The ocean around him turns transparent. Shapes blur into pure color, waves of blue melting into amber, pink, lavender. SpongeBob can no longer tell where the sea ends and the sky begins. Everything is one continuous horizon, breathing with him. He drifts on his back, eyes half open. His reflection stares back from the water's smooth surface, faint and shimmering. He watches it breathe when he breathes, blink when he blinks. Then slowly, the reflection begins to smile. The current tilts him forward. His body turns effortlessly, weightless, until he is upright again, gently floating in the middle of nothing but light. Around him, the last of the bubbles are rising upward, each one bursting softly with a quiet pop that sounds almost like a sigh. Inside one, he catches a glimpse of jellyfish fields at sunrise. Another shows Squidward painting beside his window. A third, Gary sleeping peacefully in his shell. Each image fades with the same soft warmth, not disappearing, but becoming part of the light itself. SpongeBob whispers, "Good night, everyone." The words leave his mouth like ripples. They drift outward, spreading through the dream sea, touching each bubble, each shimmer. The light responds, pulsing gently, almost as if it hurt him. He smiles, eyes glistening, then looks down. Beneath him, the ocean floor is gone. In its place is a mirror of stars, a reflection so perfect, it feels like he's floating between two skies. He's no longer sure which way is up. But it doesn't matter. Everything is still. Everything is right. He opens his arms, letting himself drift completely, no control, no direction. The current carries him through the starry reflection, through layers of glimmering memory. Each layer hums softly, like his verses of an ancient lullaby. The first verse sounds like laughter. Patrick's loud, joyful voice echoing through the water. The second, the steady rhythm of work, the sizzle of the grill, the soft chatter of the crusty crab. The third, a whisper Sandy's voice, calm and kind. Keep dreaming big, SpongeBob. He lets the words wash over him, eyes closing as the current slows. The light deepens to gold. Then through the calm, something begins to form ahead, a faint outline glowing through the mist. It's his pineapple home, exactly as he remembers it, but gentler, dreamlike. Its windows shine with the same soft glow as the bubbles. The door is open, swaying lightly with the rhythm of the sea. SpongeBob drifts closer, feeling warmth spread through his chest. As he nears the doorway, he sees himself, his real self, sleeping peacefully inside. The dream version watches quietly, a faint smile curving across his face. His sleeping self looks calm, wrapped in blankets, the faint sound of Gary's purr echoing nearby. The room glows with pale light, reflections of waves dancing on the walls. SpongeBob whispers, "I made it home." He floats just outside the doorway, not entering yet. He looks around once more, the dream sea spreading infinitely behind him. For a moment, it almost feels like the ocean is watching him, too alive, aware, filled with gentle affection. He hears it, a low, deep voice made not of words, but feeling. A presence that says, "Rest now. You've drifted far enough." SpongeBob closes his eyes and bows his head slightly, as though thanking the ocean itself. Then he slowly drifts through the doorway, merging with the sleeping figure on the bed. The two selves dream and real overlap like reflections on glass. The light folds around them, shimmering softly, then fades into calm darkness. Silence. Only the faint hum of bubbles remains, not the bright chatter from before, but something subtler. It's the background rhythm of peace, the ocean breathing in its sleep. The camera would pull back slowly here, wide, gentle, cinematic. From SpongeBob's quiet room to the outside of the pineapple house, resting peacefully beneath the sea. Tiny air bubbles drift upward, catching faint glimmers from the moonlight filtering through the waves. A few jellyfish float by, glowing softly, their tendrils trailing light like ink in water. The entire world feels suspended, the moment between one breath and the next. Soft music begins not from instruments, but from the sea itself. A lullaby woven from waves, bubbles, and starlight. SpongeBob stirs slightly in his sleep, a faint smile still resting on his face. His dream continues, but quieter now, and the kind of dream that doesn't need to be remembered to be felt. Above his home, a final cluster of bubbles rises, glimmering in the moonlight. As they reach the surface, they merge into one large, perfect sphere, the same golden bubble he entered before. It drifts upward until it touches the surface of the water, reflecting both the stars above and the sea below. Inside that reflection, for a fleeting instant, you can see SpongeBob's silhouette floating, laughing softly before it fades into pure light. The bubble bursts. A single drop of light falls back into the water, glowing for a few seconds before dissolving into the current. The waves ripple outward, gentle and slow, until everything returns to stillness. The screen darkens gradually, colors melting into one another, blue, then silver, then black, and then softly, like the ocean, whispering goodnight. "Sleep well, little sponge." A faint sparkle lingers in the darkness, pulsing once, twice, and then fading completely. Silence returns. The camera continues to pull back from Bikini Bottom to the wide open sea, to the surface where moonlight glitters like liquid glass. The waves roll slowly, endlessly, carrying the faint echo of the lullaby far across the horizon. A single bubble drifts into frame, wobbling gently. It catches a reflection of the stars, then of SpongeBob's smiling face, before it drifts upward and vanishes into the sky. SpongeBob floats in a vast, colorless space where light and shadow have become one. The bubbles that once surrounded him, glowing, whispering, alive, are now scattered faintly across the horizon. Each one drifts slower than before, their once bright hues now pale and tender, like memories at the edge of forgetting. He moves gently through the stillness, his hands brushing the last trails of glow that linger in the water. The touch feels warm, almost human. The warmth of the life he's lived, the friendships he's made, the laughter that filled his days. Far ahead, a single bubble glimmers brighter than the rest. It's larger, steadier, and its glow hums like a familiar melody. SpongeBob blinks, his eyes wide with wonder. Something about it feels alive. He drifts closer. As he approaches, the bubble expands and contracts slowly as if it's breathing. Its surface ripples with golden light, but underneath the glow, SpongeBob can see something moving inside. Shapes, colors, shadows that look like home. He reaches out and his fingertips brush the bubble's smooth surface. The instant he does, the entire ocean around him shivers. Light ripples outward from the contact, spreading in endless waves. Each pulse reveals tiny glimpses: Patrick waving, Squidward painting, Sandy floating in her tree dome, Mr. Krabs locking the Krusty Krab safe, Gary blinking his sleepy eyes. Each image flickers across the water, appearing for a second before melting away into the next. It's as if the ocean itself is remembering, showing SpongeBob everything he ever loved. He whispers softly, almost to himself, This is all of them." The last bubble pulses brighter, drawing him closer. He feels no fear, only warmth. It's the same warmth as the glow from his pineapple home, the laughter echoing across jellyfish fields, the kindness of a world that always welcomed him. SpongeBob presses his palm against the bubble's surface. It responds, gently expanding around his hand, stretching like soft glass. Then, in one slow, fluid motion, the surface parts. The bubble opens. A single ray of golden light escapes, wrapping around SpongeBob like a soft embrace. He drifts forward, letting it pull him in. Inside the bubble, everything changes. He finds himself standing on the floor of a small golden room. The walls shimmer like liquid glass, reflecting endless versions of himself. Each reflection moves slightly differently. One is younger. Another wears his Krusty Krab hat. Another carries a jellyfish net. Another holds Gary in his arms. SpongeBob turns slowly, looking at them all. Each reflection smiles back, not with perfect synchronicity, but with the warmth of shared understanding. He steps closer to one reflection, the one holding the net. "I remember this day," SpongeBob says quietly. "The first time Patrick and I caught a jellyfish together." The reflection nods. When it does, the image behind it comes alive, a full memory forming like light through water. He sees himself laughing, running through the fields, Patrick tripping over coral, both of them falling into a pile of bubbles and giggling uncontrollably. The laughter echoes softly through the bubble chamber, wrapping around him. He takes another step this time toward the reflection with the Krusty Krab hat. The reflection nods again, and the walls shift, now showing the restaurant glowing in warm amber light. SpongeBob sees himself flipping Krabby Patties, humming a tune only he knows. The sound is faint, but sweet, a melody of routine, comfort, purpose. Each reflection shows another life, another version of joy. Sandy teaching him how to tie knots underwater. Squidward performing a private clarinet concert just for him. Plankton, yes, even Plankton, sharing a quiet truce, sitting together on a rock, both just tired of fighting. SpongeBob watches, and the emotions swell in his chest: gratitude, nostalgia and the gentle ache of realizing how much beauty fits into one lifetime. He whispers, "Is this goodbye?" For a moment, the bubble doesn't respond. Then the reflections begin to fade one by one, dissolving into streams of light. The walls melt back into their golden glow, leaving SpongeBob standing in the center alone again. The last reflection to fade is the youngest version of himself, the one with wide eyes and the tiniest, brightest smile. The little SpongeBob waves. SpongeBob waves back. Then the reflection whispers, though the sound is more like a feeling than a voice. Not goodbye, just keep floating. The light swirls faster now. The room begins to hum low, deep, melodic like the ocean's heartbeat. The bubble itself starts to expand, its walls thinning until they're almost invisible. SpongeBob looks up and sees the ceiling turn transparent, revealing an ocean of stars above. The stars shimmer softly, bending in slow motion, until they form the shape of a great wave made of light. It rolls toward him, gentle, majestic, infinite, not to destroy but to carry. He opens his arms, ready. The wave passes through him, not water, not light, but something in between. It fills him with warmth so pure it feels like breathing sunlight. Every bubble outside begins to rise, following the wave, drifting higher and higher until the sea itself looks like a sky full of glowing orbs. SpongeBob watches them go, tiny, shimmering worlds floating toward the stars. He realizes slowly that each bubble carries a piece of him. Every laugh, every tear, every hug, every memory, all preserved, all set free. He whispers, "They're all dreams now." And then softly, smiling, he adds, "But dreams never really end." The light brightens, wrapping him completely. The ocean outside dissolves into endless gold. SpongeBob closes his eyes. He feels the warmth spread through him, filling every corner of his heart. The last bubble pulses once, twice, then everything goes still. The hum of the ocean deepens, not silence, but a note so low it feels like the world breathing. The last thing SpongeBob feels is a gentle tug, a soft current pulling him upward, carrying him higher through the golden sea of dreams. He doesn't resist. He just smiles and drifts till the golden light carries SpongeBob upward through waves of soft luminescence that shimmer like liquid sunlight. Each ripple he passes through feels different. Some hum quietly, others sing faint notes that echo like lullabies. The sea of dreams is endless, yet somehow gentle, like a mother rocking her child to sleep. He opens his eyes slowly, blinking against the glow. The world around him has changed again. There is no ocean floor now, no walls, no horizon, only vastness golden and blue melting into one another in infinite gradients. As he floats higher, he begins to notice shapes moving through the light. Not fish, not bubbles, but outlines glowing faintly, like shadows made of stars. At first, he thinks they're just illusions, reflections of his mind, until one turns, and he sees a familiar smile. "Patrick?" SpongeBob whispers. The glowing outline of his best friend drifts closer, transparent and radiant. Patrick doesn't speak, but his grin is the same, wide, simple, and filled with the comfort of countless shared moments. SpongeBob reaches out instinctively, and Patrick does the same. Their fingers touch, and the space around them fills with color. Instantly, bubbles burst into being, hundreds of them, floating between them, each one containing a memory. The two of them jellyfishing, eating ice cream, laughing under a giant bubble dome, sitting together on the sand at sunset. The memories swirl around like a slow-motion storm of joy. SpongeBob watches, speechless, his heart swelling. All our adventures. They're still here. Patrick nods, still smiling. His glow flickers for a moment, not fading, but softening, like a lantern's light dimming before sunrise. Then he slowly drifts backward, his body dissolving into the golden current, leaving behind a trail of bubbles that float upward, joining the others. SpongeBob reaches out, whispering, "Thank you for everything." The words ripple through the golden sea, traveling far. From the distance, another glow appears, tall, slender, with a slightly drooping head and long arms. A clarinet hums faintly in the background, the notes slow and mournful. "Squidward," SpongeBob breathes. The luminous shape nods solemnly, raising the clarinet to its lips. A single note flows out, vibrating through the golden ocean. The sound carries a strange mix of melancholy and peace, the sound of quiet understanding. As Squidward plays, the bubbles around him shimmer, showing moments SpongeBob remembers clearly: Squidward sighing behind the cash register, Squidward painting in his studio, Squidward performing a small concert for no one but the stars. But then the images shift. In one, Squidward smiles, a true, unguarded smile, as SpongeBob hands him a homemade painting of them together, their arms linked. SpongeBob's eyes fill with tears that shimmer in the golden light. You were always there, even when you pretended not to care." The figure lowers the clarinet. It gives a small bow, dignified, quiet, grateful. Then, just like Patrick, Squidward's form begins to dissolve, scattering into shimmering fragments that drift upward like glittering dust. SpongeBob stands alone again, yet not lonely. The air hums with the faint echoes of Squidward's melody. From behind him, a strong rhythmic sound begins, the unmistakable clinking of coins. SpongeBob turns and sees another familiar shape, forming shorter, broader, with a large claw glowing red gold. "Mr. Krabs!" he exclaims with a laugh. The glowing figure chuckles, his voice like the echo of waves hitting a dock. "Hi, lad. No, looks like you made it to the big leagues of dreaming." SpongeBob laughs, though his throat tightens with emotion. "I think so, Mr. Krabs, but it's beautiful up here. There's so much light." Mr. Krabs nods, his glowing claw clinking softly as he opens it. Inside rests a single golden coin, small, shining brighter than anything else. "This," he says, "be the first Krabby Patty you ever made for me. You put your heart into it, lad, not for gold, not for glory, but 'cause you loved what you did. Never lose that." He tosses the coin gently into the current. It floats upward, spinning slowly until it bursts into 1,000 tiny sparkles. SpongeBob smiles, tears still glimmering in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Krabs, for believing in me." "Aye," Mr. Krabs replies, his light flickering warmly. "And don't ye forget a life spent doing what ye love is the finest treasure there is." Then, like the others, he fades into the golden sea, leaving behind a faint echo of laughter and the soft ring of a cash register bell, i.e., the sound fades, the light softens. Now the golden current carries SpongeBob deeper into silence again. He drifts until he feels something small brush against his arm. Looking down, he sees a faint glow, a tiny, familiar shape. "Gary!" The little snail floats inside a bubble no bigger than a seashell, his spiral shell glowing like a miniature galaxy. His eyes blink sleepily, and a tiny meow echoes through the space, not loud but warm and clear. SpongeBob cups the bubble gently in both hands. "I missed you, buddy." Gary's tiny bubble pulses softly, and SpongeBob can feel the warmth travel up his arms and into his chest. The sensation fills him with peace. Slowly the bubble rises from his hands. Gary drifts upward, following the other glowing forms into the infinite sea of light. SpongeBob watches, smiling softly. "Good night, Gary." He closes his eyes, letting the quiet return. The light around him begins to pulse again, slow, steady, rhythmic. The world is changing once more. The gold begins to shift toward soft blue, fading into silvery gray tones. The brightness dims, replaced by something deeper and more serene. He opens his eyes and realizes that he's no longer floating in the light, but standing on what looks like the ocean floor, except it's made entirely of mirrors. Each mirror reflects not just his image, but tiny glimpses of everything he's seen: the bubbles, his friends, the laughter, the dreams. It's as if the entire sea has become a memory crystal, reflecting every heartbeat of his journey. In the distance, one last bubble floats, larger than any before, perfectly clear, glowing faintly with the shimmer of moonlight. SpongeBob knows this is the final one, the last dream, the last goodbye, the last breath before waking. He walks toward it slowly, the mirrored ground glowing softly beneath his steps. His reflection walks with him, smiling gently. He can hear his own heartbeat now, echoing faintly in the stillness. He reaches out, and the bubble responds immediately, pulsing with light, waiting for his touch. SpongeBob hesitates for just a moment. He looks around one last time, at the mirrors, at the infinite golden sea fading behind him. Every part of it feels like home. Then he smiles a quiet, peaceful smile. He places his hand on the last bubble. It shimmers, then bursts into light. When the last bubble bursts, SpongeBob doesn't fall. He floats through the light that spills out from it. It's not blinding. It's warm. It feels like sunlight seen through the surface of the sea, soft and weightless. The light stretches outward, rippling like liquid glass. Slowly it shapes itself into something familiar, a gentle slope of sand, the soft horizon, and the faint golden sky of dawn beneath the waves. SpongeBob looks down at his feet and realizes he's standing in jellyfish fields. But it's not the same one he knows. Yeah, everything shimmers, the grass sways in slow motion, and each jellyfish glows softly, trailing ribbons of light behind them. The air, or rather the water, feels thicker, slower, more dreamlike. Every sound is wrapped in a gentle echo. "Wow," he breathes, spinning slowly in awe. "It's beautiful." A soft laugh echoes somewhere behind him. He turns, and there's Patrick, sitting on a rock, waving cheerfully. "Hey, buddy! You made it to the big dream party," Patrick says, his voice muffled but happy, like a sound wrapped in a seashell. SpongeBob laughs, running toward him, though each step feels slow, as if the water itself is stretching time. He jumps up to hug Patrick, and for a moment, their shapes blur into a glowing cloud of bubbles. When they separate, SpongeBob notices something odd. Patrick looks younger. His star-shaped edges are smoother, his colors softer, and his eyes brighter. "You look different," SpongeBob says, smiling. Patrick giggles. "It's 'cause this isn't Mimi, it's Dreamy. Dreamy doesn't get tired or hungry, Arlo. Look, a sparkle." He points at a nearby bubble rising from the sand. It's small, but glowing intensely. SpongeBob leans closer. Inside the bubble, he sees himself and Patrick sitting together eating ice cream after work, laughing so hard their sides hurt. The sound of their laughter escapes from the bubble in a faint echo as it floats upward. Patrick watches it go. "That was a good day," he says softly. SpongeBob nods. "Every day with you was." The pink starfish grins. Still is. Then, as naturally as bubbles rising to the surface, Patrick begins to fade, not disappearing sharply, but dissolving into hundreds of small, glowing particles that float upward. "Patrick?" SpongeBob whispers. Patrick's voice echoes faintly, smiling through the air. "Don't be sad, SpongeBob. The fun doesn't end. It just drifts." The last sparkles vanish, leaving only the slow hum of the ocean around him. SpongeBob stands quietly for a moment, the gentle current swaying his body. Then a familiar clarinet note cuts softly through the silence. He turns. Squidward stands a few meters away, bathed in a soft blue glow. His clarinet glimmers faintly, and the melody he plays sounds different than usual, slower, sadder, but somehow free. SpongeBob walks closer, quietly, not wanting to interrupt. The notes swirl like ribbons in the water, forming glowing trails that float upward like phosphorescent smoke. When Squidward finally lowers his clarinet, he looks at SpongeBob with tired but kind eyes. "You always listened, didn't you?" Squidward says gently. "Of course," SpongeBob says, smiling. "Even when you told me not to." Squidward chuckles, shaking his head. "You're still the same, always finding joy in everything, even in me." "I never had to find it," SpongeBob replies. "It was always there. You just didn't see it." For a moment, Squidward's glow softens, his silhouette flickering like candlelight underwater. "You know," he says finally, "I used to think I was surrounded by fools." "And now?" SpongeBob asks. "Now?" Squidward exhales softly. "I think I was surrounded by friends." The water shivers with quiet music, just a single, sustained clarinet note that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. As it fades, so does Squidward's shape. He bows, slightly elegant, poised, and then his outline turns to light, scattering upward like tiny musical notes. SpongeBob watches them drift away. "Good night, Squidward," he whispers. The silence returns again, but this time it's not empty, it's peaceful. A faint clang echoes behind him, rhythmic and familiar. He turns, already smiling. Mr. Krabs stands nearby, but his figure is made of faint red and gold light, shimmering like treasure at the bottom of the sea. "Ahoy, lad," Mr. Krabs says, his voice booming warmly. "Still dreaming, are you?" "I guess I am," SpongeBob says. "But it feels like something's ending." Mr. Krabs chuckles. "Aye, all things end, even the sweetest dreams. But endings aren't bad, boy. They're just the start of something new." He walks closer, the sand glowing faintly beneath each step. "You worked hard, SpongeBob. You gave your best not just in the kitchen, but in everything you touched. That's worth more than all the treasure in the 7 seas." SpongeBob grins, his eyes glistening. "You taught me that, Mr. Krabs." The older Krabs smiles, nodding. "Aye, maybe I did." He opens his claw and holds out a single glowing coin, the same one from earlier. "This belongs to you now." SpongeBob hesitates, then takes it carefully. The coin feels warm, like it's pulsing with his heartbeat. When he looks up again, Mr. Krabs is already fading, his laughter echoing faintly through the golden mist. "Spend it wisely, boy, on joy." The sound fades into the distance, replaced by the hush of ocean waves. SpongeBob closes his hand around the coin. It dissolves into a soft burst of golden bubbles that swirl around him before disappearing. He's alone again, but not lonely. The sea feels quieter now, the current slower, the colors dimmer. Somewhere far above, a faint light shimmers distant, but calling to him. He looks up, feeling the pull. It's the surface. He knows it. He's seen it before the moment, between dreaming and waking, the thin layer between imagination and reality. But this time it doesn't scare him. It feels calm, gentle, like the end of a lullaby. He takes a slow breath, though he doesn't need to breathe here. His chest rises and falls, and for a second, everything that bubbles, the ocean, the silence, beats in perfect rhythm. He whispers softly to himself, "I think I'm ready." And then he begins to float upward. Not fast, not rushed, but steady, peaceful. The world below fades to gold. The world above glows pale blue. Between them, SpongeBob rises small, bright, and content. The current hums softly, almost like a voice whispering goodbye. His eyes close again. The light grows brighter. And somewhere in that brightness, he feels it the last bubble. It forms around him, smooth and perfect, sealing him in one final dream. He smiles in his sleep, surrounded by the soft shimmer of light. And the ocean holds him, cradling him gently, as if the whole sea has decided to sing him to rest. The light around SpongeBob grows brighter, not like a spotlight, but like a sunrise seen through clear water. The edges of the dream begin to soften, as if they're melting into color. The sea fades from gold to pale yellow, then into the faintest white-blue glow. Inside that glow, SpongeBob's body drifts gently, his eyes still closed, his hands folded peacefully in front of him. Tiny bubbles rise around him like snow, each carrying faint reflections, laughter, work, friendship, love. All the moments he's ever lived drift upward with him. For a moment, time seems to stop. The bubbles slow down, then begin to pop one by one with soft bell-like sounds. Each pop feels like a heartbeat. With every burst, a piece of memory glimmers, then disappears into the light. He hears Patrick's laugh again, echoing softly. "Don't be sad, buddy. The fun never ends." He hears Squidward's clarinet, one last note stretching into the horizon. He hears Sandy's calm, wise voice. "Dreams ain't meant to last forever, SpongeBob. They're meant to show you what you already have." And beneath it all, faint but strong, comes Mr. Crab's hearty chuckle. "Huh! Wake up, lad. You got a brand new day waiting for you." SpongeBob smiles. The glow around him shifts. It's no longer the dream sea. It's light, soft morning sunlight filtering through the surface of his own world. He feels something warm against his face. It's not the current. It's not magic. It's sunlight, real sunlight. A tiny bubble pops right next to his cheek, and he blinks. Slowly. The ocean fades. The stars dissolve. The hum becomes the sound of waves and seagulls. And then he wakes up. SpongeBob opens his eyes to the golden morning shining through his pineapple window. The room glows with that soft, sleepy light that feels like both an ending and a beginning. For a moment, he lies perfectly still. He can still feel the shimmer of the dream on his skin, the soft echo of the bubbles, the gentle pull of the tide that wasn't really there. His pillow is damp, not from tears, but from the faint mist left by his dream. He turns his head slightly and sees a single bubble hovering above his nightstand. It's the last one. It glows faintly in the sun, transparent but beautiful. Inside it, he can see the faintest reflection, not of a memory, but of himself, smiling softly, half asleep, surrounded by everything he loves. SpongeBob reaches out slowly, almost reverently. His fingertip brushes the bubble. It shivers, and instead of popping, it expands slightly, glowing brighter. Then, like a sigh, it releases a tiny sound, the faint echo of the dream's final note. And then it fades. Just light, just warmth. Gone. But SpongeBob keeps smiling. He sits up, stretching his arms, and lets out a small yawn. His eyes are still half-lidded, his face peaceful. He looks around his cozy room. Gary is asleep at the foot of the bed, snoring softly. The curtains sway gently from the sea breeze coming through the window. Everything is calm. Everything feels new. "Morning, Gary," SpongeBob says quietly. "Meow," Gary murmurs sleepily, curling back into his shell. SpongeBob laughs softly. He gets up, pads across the room, and stands by the window. The view outside takes his breath for a moment. Bikini Bottom glows under the morning light. Coral sparkles, the sand glitters faintly, and the surface above ripples with beams of gold. It almost feels like his dream hasn't ended, just shifted. He presses a hand to the glass. "It's still beautiful," he whispers, "just like in the dream." For a few seconds he just stands there, watching the bubbles drift past outside. He wonders if any of them came from his dream, if maybe, somewhere out there, the last bubble is still floating, carrying those memories far away. Then he chuckles, shaking his head. "Guess I'll never know, but that's okay." He turns, grabs his square pants, and hums a little tune, the same gentle melody that had echoed in his dream. As he gets ready for work, the world feels slower, softer. Every sound, the frying pan, the bubbles from his soap, the creak of the floor feels part of a rhythm, a dream rhythm that's still alive, just quieter now. He walks out his door, greeting the ocean with a cheerful, "Good morning, world." Outside, jellyfish fields shimmer faintly in the distance, not glowing like before, but glistening in the sunlight. He pauses for a moment and smiles. "See you again someday," he whispers to the dream. The breeze carries his words away, rippling through the waves. He takes a deep breath, then skips off down the sandy path toward the crusty crab. The camera pans slowly upward, showing him growing smaller and smaller in the vastness of the ocean landscape. The colors shift gently, pastel pinks, blues, and golds, blending like the last trace of a sunset. Then, just before the frame fades, something tiny sparkles behind him. A single bubble rises from the sand, perfectly round, catching the sunlight. Inside it glimmers a faint reflection of SpongeBob's dream self, smiling, waving, glowing with peace. The bubble drifts upward, rising higher and higher through the water until it reaches the shimmering surface above. As it touches the light, the soundscape returns faint harp notes, the gentle hum of the sea, and the whisper of SpongeBob's laughter echoing softly. The bubble breaks through the surface, and the moment it pops, the screen fills with a brilliant white glow. Silence. Then, a single sound.